Hello, everyone. Welcome to the BuckeyeHuddle.com post-game tailgate brought to you by Tailgate USA. I'm Mark Givler. Got Devin Radcliffe here with me today. Buckeyes putting the finishing touches on a win over Marshall as we speak. Just a couple minutes left in the game. So we're rolling now. It's 49-14 Ohio State at the moment with, again, just a couple minutes left. So the Buckeyes will be 3-0 here shortly. Happy to have Devin here with me today. We've missed each other the last couple of weeks. It's been a long time since we've done this, Devin. I mean, I had to miss week 1 for recruiting coverage. You had to miss last week. So we got the band back together here. So that's always good. Let's kind of get right into this. A bit of a sluggish start, especially on defense. What did you make of that? What did you see out there? Marshall was able to really control the clock, especially that first half, keep the ball, play a little keep away from the Buckeyes. Obviously, eventually they pulled away. But, what did you see there early and just your thoughts on how they kind of coming out of a bye week?
Obviously coming off a bye week, considering how they finished week 2 and the dominating fashion they had in week 2, you would like to see them come out with a fast start, obviously, and look like they were really picking up where they left off. We did not see that. I have to give credit to Marshall's offensive coordinator. It looked like he had really studied up what Jim Knowles had been doing and really took advantage of it offensively for Marshall. I liken it to, it's almost like a throwback game when you first started to see the air raid offense, of the late, great Mike Leach taking advantage of a single gap, one high defense, and they would really just spread out Ohio State and took advantage of some of the numbers in the box and were able to get some quarterback run game stuff going, able to take advantage of the one-on-one coverage, create some routes, create some open separation for their wide receivers. So again, credit to the Marshall offense coordinator and the game plan they had.
Yeah, and it Ohio State adjusted. The second half stats for Marshall weren't as good basically in any capacity. Ohio State adjusted. It felt like they moved their safeties up. What did you see kind of the adjustments made to combat that? It felt like they loaded the box in the second half, brought the safeties up, and just kind of dared Marshall to try and go over top of them.
Definitely saw that when the starting quarterback had to leave the game. It really was, all right, you're not, Marshall came out and started running the quarterback right away. Take advantage of those numbers again. But, the Ohio State defense, like you mentioned, their counter was, all right, we're just going to load the box and see if this guy could throw it as well as your first guy. And, obviously, we saw the second half, the way it unfolded, they were not able to do that like they were in the first half with their starting quarterback.
Boy, that Ohio State running game, though, another week, another dominant performance by their two running backs. This is as good of a duo as I can remember Ohio State having. It feels like almost every time, usually it's like a thunder and lightning dynamic. This is just like both guys are home run hitters, but they're both running hard right now. They're running through tackles. This isn't thunder and lightning. This is like thunder lightning combination into one human, but you got two of them. It's just like, it's really surprising to me just how well this is clicking so quickly with the offensive line kind of getting patched together. Donovan Jackson not playing the first couple weeks, but they're just rolling right now. And again, I mean, how much easier, I guess, does this make this on the rest of the team, whether it's the defense, whether it's the passing game, when you have two backs? You always have that threat. There's no, they're bringing Judkins out. Well, now Henderson's in. There's just no let up if you're a defense.
I think the best way to describe them is, almost like 1A and 1A. It doesn't really seem right now as if there's a game plan specific to each running back. I think the easiest example would be to go back to Trey Henderson's freshman year, at least early on. When he would come in, it was, okay, they're going to throw the ball to Trey. Again, oversimplified example. But for the sake of discussion here, it's just, okay, we're going to call, zone left. It doesn't matter who the running back is in. The expectation is for them to perform at a high level, and they don't need to tailor their calls to either one of the running backs. So I think that, again, the way I call them is 1A and 1A. Just keep rolling them in, try and split carries. And, like they mentioned all off season, and, like they even talked about today during the broadcast, it really is to save their bodies for the long haul of this new college football season.
Yeah. And, Chip Kelly, obviously, is a huge move this offseason. I think you saw his impact today. They're running these these pitch plays out of the shotgun. This is not something that was really a staple of their offense the last few years. So I guess, first of all, what are the benefits of that? They had a lot of success with it today. What are the benefits of that? What kind of stress does that put on the defense? I mean, from my point of view, you're getting it out there on the perimeter. It's almost a glorified bubble screen. You're getting it out on the perimeter quickly before the defense can sort of get sideline to sideline on you.
No, it's like you said, you get the ball out quick, threaten all flanks of the defense, make you play them honest. You can't just defend the field. Again, oversimplified example, you got to respect the numbers into the boundary. And again, with Chip's offense, he always said, he has constraints for constraints. So, you run a toss the boundary and you follow it up with a counter back to the field off the same look. So I think there's something to be said for that as well, with what Chip Kelly's trying to do in his run game.
We got to talk about the special teams a little bit. Dodged a bullet there on the Brandon Ennis punt drop, but the kickoff situation, Ryan Day was beside himself on the sidelines over that. Several kicks out of bounds today. I know when the goal used to be, and this was before some of the new rule changes, this was kind of pre-Ryan Day, is, Urban Meyer liked to try and go for that corner and get – I don't think they're doing that anymore. These are just like mishits. How do you clean that up? I
kick the ball. I get, you asked the raw guy about how to fix kicker play. It's almost the best thing I could tell you is it's almost like a shank in golf. If you're a golfer and you get the reference there, or you hear him talk about yips and putter, and putting, just for some reason there's some sort of something going on, a hitch in your giddy up. I can't think how else to describe it, where something's just a little off and you're absolutely missing the ball. And you saw it, obviously saw it 3 times today, and they had to go to kicker 2 there to finish out the game.
Yeah, someone did mention, do we have a new kicker, a new guy for kickoffs? And yes, they went to it. They went to the relief pitcher there. One thing I want to talk about here, one of my big takeaways from the last few weeks, but especially today, is this team has an ability to make game-changing explosive plays on both sides of the football that I don't think the last several teams have had. I think there's been several teams that have had, obviously, the big playability on offense, but the defense was kind of a, bend, don't break. We're not really going to turn you over that much. We'll get some pressures, but we're not going to get a ton of sacks. This seems to be a team that can, again, make you pay on both sides. And the coaches are going to hate that I say this, because this is not the mindset you want the team to have. But what it does for me is it gives this team, to me, a greater margin for error, because you can score so quickly, or you can get an explosive defense play. You can get an interception, a turnover, a Caden Curry sack today, takes him out of field goal range, kills a drive. You can get these game-changing plays. And it just, last year, it didn't feel like they had the same margin for error. They weren't turning teams over a lot. The defensive stats were good, but they weren't turning teams over a lot. The vertical passing game was, kind of hit and miss. This year, it just seems like they've just got so many ways to instantly change the scoreboard that it does give them this, where you look up and you don't feel like they played like great today, but they're up 5 touchdowns like early in the fourth quarter. I mean, do you agree with that kind of assessment? And just, have you noted, like, what have you seen out of them in terms of the big plays?
So I think one thing we need to touch on, you mentioned it, the turnovers. We heard it, early on this season so far, so there was a big emphasis on creating turnovers. I think it even went back to the beginning of fall camp. We heard the defense talk about, hey, we got to create turnovers. We were pretty good last year. We were statistically top 5 in the country, or whatever it was, but they didn't create a lot of turnovers. Well, I think early on in the game, we've seen Lathan Ransom make a phenomenal attempt on a turnover. He did actually knock the ball loose, went out of bounds before they had a chance to recover it. But again, you're seeing the emphasis put on, hey, we got to get the ball back. And again, that Lathan Ransom play personifies that. And to your point, offensively, about explosive plays, I was trying, as you were discussing, I was trying to think of a way to explain it. It seems like the past few years we had players make explosive plays. C.J. Stroud makes a phenomenal throw. Marvin Harrison Jr. or Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson make an incredible catch. What I'm noticing this year is explosive play design, where Chip Kelly has schemed it up. We saw today, for example, where by formation or it's a play action off GY counter where Jeremiah Smith is one-on-one on a slant route that goes 55 yards for a touchdown. On the surface, it was not a phenomenal throw. It was not a phenomenal catch. All the quarterback had to do was hit him in stride, and he'd take off run and turn it into an explosive play. A lot of the runs we're seeing from running back 1A and running back 1A, you're hitting GYY counter where you have three pullers, for example, and all of a sudden the running backs are getting to the second level without having to make a move. And that's where their natural athletic ability takes over from there. And you see why they're some of the top backs in the country, and they're discussed as some of the top running back room in the country, is because of the play design. It allows for that explosiveness to occur as a result of the play. And to your point, again, I just gave two examples there where you have explosive runs occurring, as well as a slant route going 55 yards for a touchdown without necessarily a superhero-like effort from any one particular offensive player. It was about execution of the offense that results in the explosive play.
Yeah, and I want to continue kind of down that path here, but I do quickly I want to thank our sponsor, Tailgate USA. They make this all possible. Great new partner we have for the post-game tailgate this year. So I want to explain a little bit about what they are. This is kind of a genius concept. I wasn't really aware of them until they came on board, and thank you to Tony for making that connection. And we've loved what we've seen out of them since we started talking to them maybe a month and a half ago. But so Tailgate USA brings the ultimate customizable tailgate experience right to you. So there's no hassle. Their team handles everything. I think everyone probably watching this likes to tailgate, but not everyone watching this likes to set up tailgate. That's the worst part of the whole thing. So let Tailgate USA kind of handle that for you. They'll deliver a fully stocked trailer or tent, and they'll all the way to the final cleanup after the game. They've got you covered: TVs, on-site bathrooms, grills, seating, anything you need. Bartenders, if you need a bartender, if you need caterers, they've got that covered for you too. It can be a corporate event, it can be just a day out, a Saturday, whether it's football season or not. You just want to throw a get together, summer, 4th of July, Memorial Day type of get together. Tailgate USA can provide you everything you need for those gatherings as well. They're in 16 states, but their favorite state is Ohio. They love the Buckeyes. The team is led by a lifelong Buckeye fan and alumni. So it's a perfect match for us. We want to work with kind of Buckeye-owned businesses. We would prefer that in every partnership we have. This is a Buckeye-owned business. So don't miss out. Start planning your next unforgettable tailgate today, and let Tailgate USA handle everything for you. TailgateUSA.net. TailgateUSA.net for more information and to kind of get your tailgate going. We do have, it looks like a final here, 49-14. Buckeyes, again, kind of running out the clock there at the end and holding on a pretty stress-free win. Obviously, some things to dissect. Certainly wasn't as clean as their last game. But, I want to get back to the explosive plays. So this has been kind of a criticism, if you will, of Chip Kelly's offense over the years, which I've never fully – I get the concept to it, but I've never fully believed it's actually a criticism. And I think we saw some of this today. It's hot outside. Your defense is out there a lot. Marshall did a pretty good job kind of sustaining some drives, keeping the ball. But then on top of that, Ohio State's offense is just like scoring. It's, 50-yard play, 60-yard play, 80-yard play. How much of that, do we grade the defense on a curve this year if that continues? Like if Ohio State continues to have these, 4 or 5 long touchdowns, like short drive touchdowns a game like they're having right now, how much of a curve do we grade the defense on then at that point? Because does that really wear the defense down, and just kind of how do you try and combat that, knowing as a defense, your offensive line or your offense is sometimes going to give you get you back on the field very quickly?
I think in particular with this year and the roster that Ohio State has, all the more reason why you need to substitute early and often and develop real depth. Again, we've been talking about the running backs being able to rotate without changing the structure of your offense. Same thing on defense. You need to be able to rotate on defense, knowing that, hey, part of our offense is we hit a slant route to Jeremiah Smith on 1st and 10 on our 25. It could go all the way and be right back out there. So you got to realize that's part of your game plan is, hey, we need to have the ability to roll guys in and out without worrying about what the play call is going to be or who's out there on the field, more importantly. And so far this season, we really have kind of seen that. We've seen, we're seeing 4 linebackers rotate in and out at this point. We're seeing the most liberal substitution on the defensive line we've seen in a long time that I can remember. Caden Curry had a big sack, for example, today. I think we saw defensive ends 5 and 6 rotate in there some and get some real playing time earlier in the game. So that's kind of what you need to do. Not kind of, that is what you need to do defensively, is realize that, hey, our offense can score and score quick. We may not be able to go out there and get off the field and go sit and rest for 3-4 minutes, because counter could go to the house at any moment with those 2 running backs, even if they are trying to milk the clock. I think actually, I think it's fair to say that maybe Ryan Day told Chip Kelly to run the ball a little bit more and try to milk the clock, and they just scored. So defensively, you just have to account for that and play more guys so that you have fresh legs.
Yeah, and they were a little shorthanded up front today. Tyleik Williams out. I thought they got some decent minutes from Tywone Malone. But, that's kind of, I think, other than the kickoff gaffes, I think a lot of people, if there's a common theme and frustration from today, which, they won by 35, but it was that maybe the front 7 wasn't as good today as they have been the first couple of weeks, and as I think people were hoping they would be throughout the year. What did you notice from the front 7 today? Just, I guess, grade the result, the effort. It did look like they were a little sluggish early in the game.
We talked about this beginning of the show. You'd like to see the defense come out with the momentum that they had they had going into the bye week. It's tough. They had a huge game week 2. I believe it was, they held their opponent to under 100 yards total offense or something ridiculous like that. So to have that expectation every week is a bit tough. But you would like to see defensive line have more impact on the game, especially early on. And it's not necessarily getting the quarterback on the ground on a sack every time. You'd like to see deflected balls. You'd like to see knockback, force the running back or the ball carrier to run lateral. I guess basically the oversimplified way to say it is blow the play up so that, the defense has a chance to make the play, even if the defensive line is not necessarily the one putting the ball carrier on the ground in the backfield. That's what you like to see from the defensive line early on in the game. I guess you could say that, kind of the cliche of it all starts up front, set the tone, create some explosion, create some knockback, and force the offense into running around instead of running plays.
Yeah, and it's hard to kind of blame the bye week because the offense played so well. The offense finished with 10 yards per play, and that's with the end of the game. Just we're running the game out numbers factored in. It was actually well over 11 yards per play when the subs came in. So another just offensive explosion. But at the same time, you could tell last week that Ohio State was not happy with the timing of this bye week. And everyone's going to have two of them this year. It's the way the calendar worked. And, beggars can't be choosers necessarily. I think at the end of the season, they'll probably be happy they had two bye weeks just to kind of keep everybody healthy and on schedule. But the way they kind of finished 2 weeks ago, you could sense some frustration. They called it improvement. They wouldn't even call it a bye week. They called it improvement week. How much of that crept into this maybe today with the slow start, especially on defense? Or was it, I don't know. It just felt the intensity didn't seem to be there. 2 weeks ago, everyone sort of made a splash play in that front seven. It felt like you could point out to like each guy. And this week it was kind of hard to find guys who were consistently making plays up front. And so what do you attribute that to? Or is it just a bad week?
No, I think the first thing is, sometimes you just got to tip your hat when a team has a good game plan. And I think Marshall early on had a good game plan to take advantage of what Jim Knowles have been doing thus far on defense. So I don't think we can have that conversation without giving some credit where credit is due. They have a little spread.
Defensively, we missed some tackles.
We got Marshall's head coach.
And we talked about it all week. You miss tackles with these guys, it's a touchdown. So we got to continue to clean that up. Really good job. Let me say this. Some of the missed tackles were broke tackles. Strong football players running through arm tackles. We got to do a better job of coming to balance. Some of those things, but really proud of the way the guys fought. Really proud of all the fans that were here today. Hopefully the fans that were here can appreciate the way our guys battled for Marshall today. So with that, open up for questions.
How much did the offensive game plan change out of the game?
A little bit, because we weren't sure what it was, so we didn't know if it was going to get him back, but after they kind of went through it, he was cramping a little bit. And then Braylon went in and he kind of rolled his ankle a little bit, so that kind of really put us in a different situation. And then, thinking globally, they kind of were able to score right back to back. So it kind of changes the mindset a little bit. They banged us up pretty good. Hopefully we get back to Huntington and some of these guys are ready to go next week, but we started going down pretty quickly in the second half. That was a major concern of mine. So I don't know the prognostics on anyone, so I can't say who's available, who's not, but it changed a lot of what we were planning to do coming out of the half when we started losing some guys.
End of the first, beginning of the second, we had some momentum, and then Stone slips on the fourth, then the punt muff, and you guys are covered. There's a penalty, so just little things like that against a good team.
Yeah, those are the things you talk about. The margin of error is small. You ain't gonna be perfect, but you got to control the things you can control. We had a guy that was just off the ball on punt. You got to be breaking the center's plane or the center's hip. He was just off the ball in his alignment. Just so happened that was on the one that you muff, and you never know. That's why you got to play discipline, for 60 minutes, because you never know when an opportunity. I would like to see just how we responded if we were able to kind of get the ball in that position. But those are the things we can go back and learn from. I think there's a lot of really good teaching from these last two games. I think we've played some of the top teams in the country in two conferences. I'm uber proud of the O-line. Again, we haven't given up a ton of sacks. I know that sounds remedial, but it was one of our issues last year. The quarterback got hit a lot. I thought Stone did a better job of getting the ball out. He's still got some things he's got to improve on. We challenged our wide receivers to catch the ball with a little more consistency. They did that. I don't know if all of those guys, but I'm sure 8 or 9 of those guys are playing the NFL up front. And I thought our guys battled. And if we can continue to do that and stay healthy, I think we got a chance to, put some really good quarters of football together.
They kind of have a pick the poison on offense because they've got packs, they've got a lot. You can't focus on one thing here.
It was impressive. There's still some things that we can do better. I think, the first one, we didn't get aligned. We were getting aligned when the ball snapped, and obviously 6 inches here, and you're talking, typically if you're playing, I don't know, conference foe or level foe, maybe that's a 20-yard run. You get on the ground, you get a chance to reset, and you don't in these type games. We talked about that. You got to get set quickly. You can't miss tackles, and some of those were broken tackles. And that's one of the good things that good players do. They're able to break tackles. I mean, you can come with perfect fundamentals, perfect form. And if they break a tackle because they're stronger, that happened, today, and it created some explosive plays. We'll get a chance to go back and look. There were a lot of explosive plays today, but what I want to be able to look at is how many of those were created and how many of those were given, if that makes sense. Did we just give up an explosive play because we weren't in the right position or we weren't, playing the defense the right way, or did they create an explosive play by breaking 2 or 3 tackles? Either way, we still got to correct it, but there's a different type of correction. You broke 2 or 3 tackles, we need to continue to work our tackle fundamentals, rally into the ball. If we created it, then that's an understanding of schematics. Just off, 30 minutes after the game, I would say a lot of them were created and not given, if that makes sense. I don't know that for sure. I'll know on Tuesday because you guys will ask me.
You would describe Ohio State as one of the best teams you've
ever
seen.
Ever.
Did they live up to their ability in person?
Offensively, absolutely. And then defensively, they smother you. They kind of just lean on you and kind of weigh you down a little bit. And that's what kind of happened to us. Let me say that. I can't speak for whoever else they're going to play. But defensively, they kind of just laid on us long enough to wear us down offensively. Offensively, I don't know. I mean, 2019 LSU, 2021 Alabama, they're probably in that realm. I mean, they're really good. They're really good. We didn't make it hard on them today by missing tackles. That doesn't help, but they're really good. Hats off to them. Coach Day's done a phenomenal job building this program. He was able to retain a lot of players that had opportunities to go other places. Some guys came into the program. They can stay healthy. I don't even know if they need to stay healthy. They probably just put the 5th guy in, but it was good. It was good. They're good. A lot of respect for them. And don't get me wrong. We didn't make it easy on them, by some of the things we tripped ourselves up with, but they're good. They're good.
Coach, you talked about the high praise for Ohio State. I know you're not about to but it's only be down 28-14 at the half, still moving the ball. Is that something where you kind of just try to really build off that positive?
Yeah, I think obviously at this point, in that point of the game, we weren't just excited about, where we were. But, when you step back and look at it, they haven't given up a touchdown all year. One team's gotten to the red zone against them all year, and they snapped the ball over the center's head, so they got out of the red zone. They've been in the red zone one time. I thought the biggest play of the day was we go down there in the goal line and we punch it in. I mean, that's a man's yard, down there on the goal line. And I thought offensively we were a lot more efficient today. I'm not saying we're great and we're there. We're a lot more.
Creating explosive plays, but then turn the ball over quick too. Things like that can happen. That's the risk. We don't always play that way because we don't always want to put the defense in a bad position that way. But we felt like in this game, philosophically, that's what we were going to do. We talked to the team about it. Obviously, we talked to the offense about it. And I thought we had a good tempo about us on offense today. We had an opportunity to kind of wear them down and be explosive. So I thought that was well done. Tyleek will be day-to-day. And I don't know when we'll have an update there, but he's day-to-day.
Over to the left, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, on the kickoffs with Jaden there in the second quarter, what exactly was his issue?
Yeah, I didn't really get into it, and so we put Austin in there, and I thought he did a nice job. So we'll evaluate him and see if there's any, tweak or something that happened, in the hip or whatever. But, but either way, we can't have that. I mean, that's putting our defense in a terrible situation. Having 3 out of bounds and 3 drives to start on the 35-yard line, that's completely ridiculous. So we got to get that fixed, however we do that. And you get to the point where you want to let somebody play through it, but then it's at another point we got to make a change. So I thought Austin did a nice job of stepping in there and then doing a good job kicking the ball off.
Over here to the right, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Yeah, Ryan, your overall view of the way your defense played today tightened up things clearly in the second half. That air raid is a real deal, it looks like. But and then number 2, your penalty
but you also had another guy tossed out of the game for, I think it was Caden Curry. How wrong did you feel in that moment with your penalty by the way they were lollygagging?
You're asking a lot of questions there, Tim. And one, I mean, geez,
I'm sorry.
I don't know if that counts for one or three. All right, where do we start? The defense. I felt like Marshall did a nice job with their style of play, which is +1, spreading you out with the quarterback run. As we know, there's pluses and minuses of that. The plus, you can be +1. The negative is you take a lot of shots on your quarterback. So they did a good job with that. I thought we continue to stick with it. There's still a lot of that we're going to watch on this film that we're not going to be pleased with, just with overall execution. I know Jim's going to be that way. So the things we did well, we'll continue to enhance. The things that we didn't do well, we got to grow from. Like you said, we kept playing on it. Did do some good things, and we're not going to take any win for granted, as you see across the country. Like, we all take these wins for granted, but there's a lot of work that gets put into them, and guys played hard out there today. They did. Again, the effort is there. The guys are playing hard, and so we got to keep building on that. In terms of the penalties, the Caden thing, I got to look a little bit closer at. I saw it. When you see things in slow motion, sometimes it looks a little different than when it's live. So. But my situation was, there was 21 seconds on the clock when we subbed in. They, my opinion, were really, 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 really slow getting in. And so at some point when you make a sub, around 21 seconds, you still should be able to run a play. And so we had to call timeout. I went out to the numbers. I didn't curse, but I was, raising my voice saying that there was 21 seconds on the clock. And at some point that has to be a delay of game on the defense. I guess I yelled too loud. I'm not sure why, but that's what happened.
Over to the left, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, Ryan, you had 1 carry for 2 yards in the first quarter, and then it just breaks loose. What did you like about your running game after that?
Yeah, how many plays did we have in the first quarter? I don't remember. Is that all it was? That's probably more. Yeah. I think what you're seeing is an identity that's slowly getting molded here where, we're explosive on the perimeter. I keep saying I don't think it was perfect, but I see our receivers blocking on the perimeter with some of these screen plays. You saw the first one to Emeka where, guys are blocking and then that thing split. You see the athleticism of some of our linemen, Josh Fryer out in space. Seth McLaughlin did a great job on that play. And then Emeka's got the home run ability. So that spreads you out this way. We took a shot early. We got to clean that up a little bit. There's some things that we can do better there, and coach it better. But we're trying to stretch the field vertically. Once you do that and you can start running the ball with the way that our running backs are running and the way the O-line's now, really growing. And I think Donovan being back in there helped a lot. And I thought the running backs ran hard. And, when you have the ability for Will to pull it, that just changes the numbers. You think back when we had Justin Fields and we had JT Barrett, it was just a different run game. And so I think you're starting to see that come back a little bit. I thought Chip again called a good game, good balance across the board. So, again, bigger challenges ahead. We're heading into conference play, but the identity is starting to build, and that running game is starting to build an identity and some confidence, I think, up front, which was needed.
Ability to see the field. I'm not saying you haven't had that before, but it looks pretty special.
Yeah, I thought Trevion ran hard, and I thought Quinshon, and even James. James had some good. All three of them. I got to give them credit. They all have special abilities. They play well off each other. They're unselfish, which is like the biggest thing you can say about a bunch of guys. Like, they don't care who gets the credit. They're all running downhill and playing really fast. So a good group, and I think Locke's got them playing hard.
Folks, we have Jordan Hancock in the back of the room for about 6 more minutes. Over to the right, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
2 quick ones. How would you assess Will Howard's play and kind of where he stands right now? And just as a team, you're now heading into Big Ten play. You haven't been tested in non-conference. How do you feel about where you are right now?
Again, you don't know till you get out in the field, but we go against good players every day in practice. So it's not like we don't know what we look like against good players. So we'll just go on what we see and grow from it from there. But I thought Will did some really good things. I mean, the touchdown play to Jeremiah, that was a hot situation where we did not have the nickel picked up on that play. And that was a side adjustment where he had to see that. And so the execution on that was very, very high. I thought the long pass to Carnell was really well done. He saw the adjustment that was made there and found the next read. So that was well done. There's a couple really good plays in there by Will. So I think he's growing. I think he's getting more comfortable in the offense. So we'll watch the film and grade and see if we graded out a champion.
And folks, we have Emeka Abuka at one of the back tables as well. Back over to the left for Coach Cameron Teague Robinson, the Athletic.
Ryan, I think it was going into week 1, you mentioned the excitement to get Quinshon on the field, but you didn't know exactly what it would look like because he hadn't played a game in a Ohio State uniform. 3 games in, what have you learned about Quinshon that really stands out about him?
I just appreciate how hard he plays. His pad level when he runs. He's got home run ability, but you can see he gets behind his pads and runs physical. He's got a great attitude. He's got a great attitude. You can coach Quinshon hard, and he looks you in the eye, and he almost appreciates the fact when you coach him hard that you're trying to get him better. And that's a great sign for somebody who, hasn't been in the program for multiple years. It says a lot about who he is as a person, and he's running hard. I think he enjoys being part of this program, and he's been nothing but a great teammate so far.
Over to the right, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
The depth of your interior defensive line was really tested today between Tyleek being out and certainly the heat as well. I guess what were your thoughts on that, and especially guys like Jason Moore and Taiwan Malone getting as long of playing time as they have here? So,
yeah, I got to watch it and figure it out. I feel like a mixed bag kind of coming out of the game. Some good play in there, but there was some other things that I think we're going to look at and want to get fixed. So I'll kind of wait till the film to and get some more feedback from the defensive coaches on exactly how some of those should have been fit.
Folks, we're going to take 2 more questions for Coach Day, then we're going to bring Quinshon up to the main podium. Over to the right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Ryan, you guys rotated Austin and Integra a little bit on the right there.
Yeah.
Do you want that to be a fluid situation as you guys keep going, or would you like to settle that once and for all at some point?
I like seeing them both play. Yeah, I think they both deserve to play. I think you guys saw them both play well in the first couple games. We'll see how they grade it out, and we'll keep evaluating it. But I don't think it's a bad thing to have a young guy get a little bit of a break during a game. And, if we feel like it gets to the point where they're not getting into the flow of the game, then we'll keep a close eye on it. But I like getting those guys in the game and getting them reps.
And final question for Coach. Over to the left, Andy Anders, 11 Warriors.
Yeah, sticking with the run game, the growth you've seen on the offensive line and from the run blocking as a whole in the first few weeks. What to you has really spurned that on and gotten to the point now where you've put up the numbers you have these last 2 games?
I think it's everything. I think it's Seth has done a great job of getting everybody on the same page. He's like having an NFL center in there. He is. When you go into a meeting and you say something, he's got the answer or he's going to get it fixed in game. He's talking to those guys. It's just a calming presence, I think. Then when you add Donovan in there, it strengthened it even more, I feel like, this week. Now, not everything's perfect, and we are going to see, a lot different competition moving forward. It's just once we get into conference play and down the road. So, we're not, making any kind of judgments right now. But you go off what you see, and you're seeing improvement there, and that's a good sign. I do think the running backs have a big part of it. You watch the film. Are they running hard? The answer is yes. And then again, Will making good decisions, either having the ability to pull it when appropriate, or making the decision to throw the ball out on the perimeter with the receivers blocking is critical. If your receivers don't block when you have some of those things, those plays don't work. So those are extensions of the run game, even though maybe they don't always show.
Great. Coach, thank you very much.
Okay, guys, thanks.
All right, folks, we are going to bring to the main podium in a moment. We'll bring someone to the main podium.
Yes, we should get Quinshon Judkins here soon. I'm not Quinshon Judkins, by the way. But we'll get him soon. As soon as the players arrive at the podium, we'll jump right back to that. I don't know how much time we have to kind of break down the comments we just listened to. I did think, oh, here we go. We got Quinshon now.
The flow of the game to not even touch the ball, and then obviously you exploded after that.
Just with Travion being in there, I was super excited to see how he ran, just supporting him from afar and just looking at how he progressed throughout the first quarter and the different runs that he had and just how the offense was flowing. So it was pretty successful, and I enjoyed it.
Over to the left, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
I think it was 95 degrees on the field. Did it feel, I mean, is Mississippi is it any hotter than this?
Definitely. Some days a little hotter. I think some of my teammates had to get a little bit adjusted. Someone was breathing like super hard, and I was like, it's not even that hot, guys. So I think it wasn't as hot as I thought it was going to be for sure.
Coach Day was saying coachability is maybe your thing. Do you pride yourself on that in terms of wanting to get better? Have you always been that way, or did you bristle at times and say, no, I'm already there?
Yeah, definitely. I've always been that way. That's how I approach the game. I approach the game in a way that I want to get better. And if my coaches, that's what they're here for, to help me improve and go out and make my game to be better on a day-to-day basis. So I listen to it and I go out there and just try to improve every single day.
Quinshon, over to the right here, you have Stefan Kreisnick, Cleveland.com.
You had the big run last game, come back. How good did it feel to kind of get another chance and break it this time? It's the longest run of your career.
Yeah, definitely felt pretty good. I turned around a little bit to see if I had a flag on the play, but I was definitely super excited, so it's fun.
Gus Johnson mentioned on the broadcast that you pulled him aside and said that you were excited to have him call your game. Have you listened to that call yet, and why were you excited?
I haven't. I have not listened to the call, but just being in a different conference in the SEC, with the announcers and the commentators that we had, and you hear Gus Johnson in the Big Ten, so it's like he's super exciting the way he commentates the game, and I wanted to be a part of that experience, so it was super fun.
Over to the left, Jeff Gilbert, Press Pros.
Well, Sean, Coach Day just mentioned earlier in here, nobody cares who gets the credit. Why? You're new to this team this year. Why is that culture like that here? What have you seen? Where did it come from?
Man, I think it's the brotherhood. Everybody has put blood, sweat, and tears into this program. Everybody has woke up at 5 a.m. to be in the building and train. And it's because you're doing it for the person beside you. It's not you're doing it because of yourself. It's because you're doing it for your brother. And just knowing that I can trust that guy beside me to go out there and he's going to make a play, that's what our culture is, and that's what everything is built on, and that's what our foundation is built on.
Quinshon over here to the right, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Quinshon, what is your attitude when you get that ball, when you get a pitch, when you get the ball in your hands? Because you seem to just run with, I don't know, power is one word, but just not reckless abandon either. You have a purpose in mind, but it's almost like you want to fight, a little bit. And plus that stiff arm, it wasn't really a stiff arm, just a shove down there on the defender on the corner when you scored that one touchdown. I don't know what just goes into your mind when you got the ball in your hands. I
think the mindset of me and my teammates as a whole is to play with bad intentions. And I think that's my mindset when I get the ball is to, I'm going to try to, that's my job. I'm going to do my job at the end of the day. I'm going to try to get the first down. I'm going to try to score. So every time I get the ball, I'm going to make the most of it.
Over here to the right, Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
Quinshon, you played 3 games now in the Horseshoe. I guess can you kind of just reflect on what this experience has been like and how it kind of compares to some of the things you experienced in your previous years?
Yeah, it's definitely been a super fun experience. I enjoy every single win with my teammates. Like Coach Day said, it's not hard to get a win in any football game. So we enjoy the win, and then we'll come back tomorrow and see how we can improve for the next game. I think this team here as a whole,
the weather in
the
Oxford,
heat. Okay, the heat. I would say it's like I said earlier, it's not that hot. Like for me personally, it's not that bad. Yeah.
And final question for Quinshon, Noah Weiskopf over here to the right, the Lantern.
Quinshon, what goes through your mind when you see really 86 yards of open field in front of you? Like, what are you thinking?
Score. That's really my mindset. I think when I get the ball, I want to give a big shout out to Coach Locke because the way he teaches the whole room and how we go through progressions and practice and different things when it comes to going through our progressions and reading linebackers. I want to give a big thanks to him because he's helped the whole room improve as a whole. So just going through my progressions and my reads, and I seen the linebackers come out of their gaps and overflow. So it's like I hit it and I was going.
Did you glance at the big screen?
I didn't. No, I just looked at the crowd and they were going crazy.
Great. Quinshon, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you guys.
Hey, folks, we can have the last question for Emeka Abuka in the back there, and we are going to bring Will Howard up to the main podium now.
What's up,
Will,
guys?
we're going to open up over here to the right with Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Cool. Well, we've heard that one of the benefits of having those tablets on the field is that you get to immediately review plays. I think you know where I'm going with this. When you watch that pick back on film, do you think I should have thrown it out further, or do you think I shouldn't have thrown the ball at all?
No, I looking back at that play, I probably wouldn't. I mean, sometimes things happen, and I think looking at it, the boundary was clouded, so I couldn't throw the boundary. We were max protected, so I had 3 routes. So it was either that or my vertical wrap, and my vertical wrap was covered. So that was really the only option I had, and the plan all week was let that thing rip and put it on a spot. And I'm gonna trust number 4 every day of the week, and he's gonna go make that play. And sometimes things happen, and it's football. And you know what? We had to come back and bounce back, and you know what? It's part of the game, and it's about how you respond. And I think we responded really well, and nobody batted an eye. We just went back to work and kept going.
Will, over to the left, Rob Aller, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, well, when the run game is clicking like it did, what does that do for you? What does that do for the offense? Is it an attitude changer?
Oh yeah, I think you saw the offensive line rocking off the ball today. They were getting up to the second level very fast. With the way that their front was set up, we felt like Seth and some of the tackles could work up to the second level really quickly. And I think our guards got really good movement. I think those guys were getting up to the second level well, and our running backs were doing an unbelievable job of reading things. And when the run game is clicking like that, man, it makes my job easy, because we're not in a lot of third downs. We stay on schedule, and if we are in third down, I don't think we had more than obviously the one that was like a super long, but other than that, it was maybe like a 3rd and 10 was probably the longest we had. So it keeps you on schedule, and when you can present a balanced attack like we did today, it opens a lot of things up.
Your attitude when Sean was saying that bad intentions, you play with bad intentions.
Mm-hmm.
When the run game is doing what it's doing, does that sort of change anything from finesse to more power, or what does that do in the mood?
I don't think we think about that much. I think we're just out there executing one play at a time, and some plays they're going to be a little more finesse, some plays are going to be a little more downhill and right at you. And it's everyone's just got to do their job on every single play, and we're trying to be the hardest playing team in the country. And I think we did it for a lot of the game today. I don't think we were perfect. I think offense had a pretty solid game, and I think overall, we went 49-14. No one's going to complain about that. That's a we don't take wins for granted here. But and I say this every single week, and I'm going to say it the rest of the year, but there's always more to improve on, and I think that's the exciting thing.
Will, over here, deep right, Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Yeah, Will, you guys showed the T again, like in the spring game. Are you ever surprised by what Chip Kelly's calling? And now 3 games into it, just what's your relationship like with him calling plays?
Yeah, I think we're clicking. We're on the same page on a lot of things, and just the way that we see, the way that we see coverages and the way that we see just the pictures. We're on the same page on a lot of stuff, and I think we're really starting to click. And you never know what you're going to get with Coach Kelly. He'll do just about anything, and I think that's the cool part about it. It keeps defenses on their toes, and there's still a ton of stuff that I'm sure we're going to come up with, and new stuff we'll create, and things we'll make off of what we've already done. And I think that's the fun part about it. It's the chess game. It's the game within the game. And it makes it fun.
Over to the left, Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Will, on Mecca's touchdown, how soon after he caught it did you think he was going to go all the way, and just how important is what he can do after the catch?
It was pretty soon after. I think I looked at Trey and started celebrating, and I knew he was gone after he hit that. I think he crossed into like the 3rd level, and I was like, all right, he's gone. I think my 2 touchdown passes were a screen and a slant today, and they were both for over like 45 to 68 yards. It's awesome. When I can just let those guys go, get the yak and do the rest. It makes my job easy, man.
Over to the right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Will, now that Emeka's had the kind of game he just had, Jeremiah had obviously 2 really good games to start the year. Do you feel like teams are starting to defend you guys a little differently, and will continue to try to do different things moving forward to try to throw you guys off?
I'm sure they will. I don't know if we've seen anything crazy yet. I think in all the games that we've played, I think every defense has kind of tried to change things up, try to give us different looks. I think today they were kind of just trying to throw whatever they could at us, different looks. They changed up some things, some tendencies they did.
that didn't show up today as much. You know, obviously there were still some that stayed true, but some of them didn't show up as much. And, you know, you have to be ready for all those things and be ready to react to them. But also, you know, I think all of this stuff that we've done has presented problems for defenses, and, you know, you gotta just continue to adjust and adapt to whatever they're going to do to you.
Isle, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Speaking of problems for defenses, I know your receivers don't care who gets the credit, but to get the ball spread around a little more, Jeremiah obviously took the headlines the first 2 games. Going into Big Ten play, how important is that to kind of remind everyone, Emeka, Carnell, you've got weapons besides?
Yeah. No, I think it's huge. I mean, I think, you know, people respecting everything, you know, and not just the receivers, the tight ends too. Those guys can make plays too, you know, like and then the run game, and then, you know, me getting my legs going, like all these different things present challenges for defenses. And the more ways that we can attack them and the more people we can get involved, the harder it's going to be for them.
Over here to the right, Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Mecca said that the expectation, or at least the possibility, is there to score on every play. What's it like to be the quarterback on an offense that has that kind of ability and confidence to do that?
Man, I was sitting on the sideline today, and I was talking to some of the other quarterbacks, Devin and Julian. I was like, dude, our offense is so explosive. It's crazy. Like, I mean, literally every play could be a touchdown. If we block everything up and get everything, like every play could break for a touchdown. And it's exciting. It's also like, you know, it makes it kind of fun. You know, you're just like, you never know when Trey's going to go, you know, take a run that should have probably been tackled for like an 8-yard loss and just stiff arm somebody and into next week. And like Quinshon, you know, like superhero slamming some, like, it's fun, man. It makes it exciting, and you never know what's going to happen on any certain play. All you got to do is, for me, I just got to do my job, man. And I just got to keep us on schedule and be sharp. And I think we did a good job of that today.
Over to the left, Cameron Teague Robinson, The Athletic.
Will, there's a lot of talk about the explosion of the receivers, but on a day when you can give a bubble or a screen to Emeka and he can take it for a touchdown, but then say the next drive, the receivers block the way they do. What is that like to have receivers, and not just one receiver, it's all of them, be so versatile in that aspect?
Yeah, man, that's the mentality of that room, man. Zone 6, like, those dudes are dudes, like, and it's not just about getting catches. You know, it's not just about scoring touchdowns. It's about executing every single play. And I think Coach Hart does a really good job of coaching those guys up and getting them right. I've never seen a more selfless group of receivers and a more selfless, talented group of receivers. Like, all of them are unbelievably talented. They all want to genuinely see each other succeed. They block for each other because, you know, they know that whatever, you know, they may have to do the same thing the next play, you know, and they're going to be, you know, Emeka may be blocking for Carnell, and then Carnell may be blocking for Mech, and JJ, like, whoever it is, man, it doesn't matter. And I think that shows the selflessness of those guys, and, you know, the character of the guys in that room. And for me, like, I can work with character, man. If I got guys around me that I truly love and care about, and I know are going to go put their body on the line and make plays, not just in the pass game, but in the blocking game, like, man, we can work with that. That is, it's spoiling for me.
I got time for just a couple more. Over here to the right, Tim May, Letterman Row.
Yeah, just 3 real fast ones. Your coach taking the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty when clearly Marshall was lollygagging, getting back out on the field. You were in the midst of that. What were you told by the officials there about what was going on?
I wasn't really told anything.
I mean,
yeah, I wasn't. I don't know. I don't know what happened on that play.
Of course, was called timeout.
Yeah, I don't know what the refs were just. I mean, I know they were playing the game with us with the delay of game and trying to, you know, late substitute. I've been a part of that on teams before, and
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, and the robust, when you get the sneak, did you get harder from the front? Did you get it harder from the front or the back? Because everybody wanted you to score, I think.
I don't know. Pause. But I knew somebody. I needed to say it, but I don't know. That O-line got a really, really good push on that play, though. They got a really good push, and it was probably the easiest quarterback sneak I've ever had.
And last thing, Quinshon Judkins, you get to watch him sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Well, how would you describe how he runs from a violent standpoint, whatever you want to call it?
He's different, man. He's different. He's built different. He's a different beast, man. He's physical. He's fast. I mean, you saw it on that breakaway run. Like, there's not much that guy can't do. And I think on top of that, he's one of my favorite people on the team. Like he's like awesome. I love that dude. And I would do anything for him, man. And the plays that he's making are just, it's just a compound of all the work he's put in since he's been here. And I'm excited for him because he's only scratching the surface of what he's capable of, and he's already doing some pretty damn good things.
And final question, Stefan Kreisnick, Cleveland.com.
Coach was talking about Seth McLaughlin, said he was kind of like an NFL center, said he had a calming presence in the room. I guess from your perspective, working with him, how much easier does he kind of make your job, and how has your relationship with him grown since you both got here?
Man, me and Seth are super tight. Like he's one of my best friends on the team, and we spend a lot of time together. And he is a guy that I fully trust in anything. Like if he makes a call, I'm like, oh yeah, he probably sees something I don't see, and we can bounce ideas off each other. Hey, why'd you do that? Why'd you make a left call there? Why'd you, whatever it is, we have that relationship to where we trust each other, and we know that we're both trying to get on the same page, and we're on the same page most of the time. And he's been really, really good for me to have, just coming into this, being a first year guy in a system, and also having a guy like him. I think both of us can kind of lean back on our experiences a little bit, and all the different football. We've both of us have played a ton of football up to this point, and I think that's helped us, and we've bonded over that, and also it's helped us out on the field.
Great. Will, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll go Bucks.
Folks, press box closes in 2 hours and 14 minutes, so prioritize your post-game activities, and we'll see.
All right. So we heard from both head coaches, Will Howard, Quinshon Judkins. I want to start first with what Marshall head coach Charles Huff was saying about the Ohio State offense, and he put it in the same realm as 2019 LSU and 2021 Alabama, arguably the two best offenses in college football history. Devin, just is he on to something? I mean, this is the second, at least, and I didn't listen too much to what Western Michigan's coaching staff said last week, but this is the second head coach, Joe Moorhead being the other one, that has kind of put this label on them as like, national championship caliber offense, or as good of an offense as you'll see. Are you seeing that? And just kind of, I guess, how does that resonate with you when you hear opposing coaches kind of openly throw that out there?
I think the thing you got to look at first and foremost is that when you're in Ohio State and you're playing a Marshall, and this is not a disrespectful comment, not intended to be, you want your offense to look like that caliber. You don't want to have your offense have a letdown game against your, week 1, 2, 3 opponents. So there's something to be said for going out there and making yourself, if you're going to talk about being a national championship caliber team, executing and performing like a national championship caliber team. So there's something to be said for going out there and doing what you're supposed to do. So, in regards to 2019 LSU or 21 Bama, there's a lot of football to be played, and you've got to continue to get better. There's a lot of football. Like I said, there's a lot of football to be played. You don't want to rest on what you've accomplished in the first 3 games of the season, because you don't. Old saying in coaching, you're either going to get better or get worse. You're never going to stay the same. So you got to continue to improve over the duration of the season. I'm sure Chip Kelly's got plenty of things in store as the season progresses, as the players grasp what his offense is more and more each week. But again, I think it's way too early to label this offense as 2019 LSU or 2021 Bama. LSU was led by arguably one of the greatest college football quarterbacks of all time. Long way to go before you get there. But, you want to have that conversation when the season's over, not 3 weeks in.
Yeah, that's certainly true. And we're going to learn, I think, a lot more about this team here the next few weeks. Some of the games they've got coming up are going to be likely be pretty competitive. So we'll have a lot more to digest with historical significance in maybe 3 or 4 weeks. But it seems like these guys genuinely like each other. And sometimes it feels fake sometimes, oh, I love that guy. I'm like, do you? These guys, that doesn't seem fake when these guys talk about it. When you hear Judkins and Henderson talk about each other, when you hear Will Howard talk about his weapons, when you hear their weapons talk about Will Howard or the receivers blocking for each other, what does that, I guess, how does that help, from being in a locker room all the time? How much does that factor into how they're able to put these offensive performances together?
I'm reminded of, let's go back, almost 10 years now, I think it is, when we heard Urban Meyer start talking about the power of the unit. And, I can't remember who he studied when he came up with that, but he wanted to make sure that the guys in your room, you were really tight and you were playing tight for the guys in your unit. He used to talk about 9 units strong, and you play for the guys, you play for the guys, your position group. And, the saying I like to say is, you want to be the teammate that you want to have, carry yourself as a teammate that you would like to have. And I think there's a lot to be said for that when you're willing to put in that effort. And you heard the guys talk about today and put it all out there for your teammates, because that's the expectation you want from them. And in order to perform at a high level, that's what you're going to need, is you're going to need guys willing to sell out, especially as season progresses. Who's to say, one of those long runs from the running backs doesn't get caught if a wide receiver isn't blocking downfield against Penn State. I'm just thinking of a random Big Ten game coming up, big Big Ten game coming up here. You're going to need that type of effort if you really want to achieve the goals that this team's obviously not shy of talking about. Guys willing to sell out and play as hard as they possibly can for their teammates.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the chemistry is there, both on and off the field offensively right now. Another monster performance today. I know Tony and Tom and the guys will take over here in a little bit, but I got to get to my game ball. This would have been really easy for me to go 2 weeks in a row with Judkins. Another unbelievable performance. It was 14 carries, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns. If you count that 80-yarder that got called back 2 weeks ago, he is something like 25 carries, like 370 yards, or it's just something completely stupid the last 2 weeks. But I resisted the urge to go with Judkins again. My game ball is Emeka Egbuka. I thought, first of all, the explosive play early, which he did a great job creating. I think we're getting so enamored with the shiny new toys, Judkins, Jeremiah Smith, Will Howard, even on defense to an extent with Caleb Downs. We're getting so, enamored with these new shiny toys that we kind of forgot, Emeka Egbuka is still probably the best receiver on this team today, or at least is going to be their primary guy today, as good as Jeremiah Smith is now and will be. But he had a great day today, had 5 catches, 117 yards, a touchdown. Was blocking his tail off on the perimeter for his teammates, and is really the mentor of that room, helping. He's been very selfless in bringing along Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith and some of the other young guys. So I've got Emeka getting the game ball, because I just, first of all, he had a great game, is deserving of it. But I also think, again, we've kind of, I just feel like we don't want to lose him in the shuffle of all the cool new gadgets they have. Devin, just, Ryan Day alluded to this, kind of building off of this. And Will Howard talks about too, just the blocking on the perimeter. Again, is it always perfect? No, but the effort on the perimeter to block. What did you see that today? It just feels like every week I'm watching the game thinking, boy, these guys are just really getting after it on the perimeter.
That again, we're just referencing it. If you're going to take these, make these big plays happen, these explosive plays happen, it can't happen without good blocking on the perimeter, where these wide receivers are able to get in the way of the defenders to spring the ball carries to the second level. Again, you heard Will Howard say today, he had 150 yards passing on a slant and a tunnel screen. And those play, tunnel screen in particular occurs because of perimeter blocking. I mean, that's how the play is designed, is get behind your your wide receivers and hit a crease and go. So, those plays that to create those explosive plays from 5 yards to 15 yards to what we saw today and early this season it doesn't happen without good blocking on the perimeter from the wide receivers. And again, to put two teams together, that makes it a lot easier to be willing to go downfield and block when you have the respect and a good positive relationship with your teammates.
Yeah, we used to kind of make fun of it, the you don't block, you don't play philosophy at Ohio State in the receiver room, which dates back, really or probably even to Tressel. I mean, it dates back a long way, but the you don't block, you don't play mantra, and people would get angry that maybe a freshman wasn't playing, and who cares if he's blocking? I think we're seeing more and more as time goes on, and especially early this season, how important the wide receiver perimeter blocking is to creating these explosive plays, to making the offense go, to keeping sustaining drives, and so that's been another positive there for the offense as well. The other thing Day alluded to, it seems like an ongoing almost competition at right guard. Day was asked about that. Will he settle on someone? Day said, no, I kind of like getting them both in. Austin Sierreveld was not really a guy that was talked about much in fall camp for right guard. I think everyone knew he was kind of penciled in behind Donovan Jackson at left guard. And the right guard talk was, Tegra and Luke Montgomery and Carson Hinsman, or, whoever didn't get the center position. But it feels like Sierreveld's played his way into that playing time at right guard now, where maybe he played so well last game. I won't say last week, it was 2 weeks ago, but last game, that now he's kind of played himself into that. And kind of, what is your philosophy on that as far as cohesion? And, is it okay to kind of rotate those guys up front on the offensive line?
So you're going to get into a great offensive line debate here. Do you want to rotate guys in and out? Because like you said, it requires a lot of communication and cohesion up front to make make an offensive line work. As you count on that communication and, working combination blocks and seeing things the same way as a unit, really. So do you want to rotate guys in and out that have earned it? Yes. You want to reward, if you got guys that you can play and produce for you, you got to find a way for them to do that. And I'll go back to our conversation at the beginning of the show, talking about rotating guys on defense. Offensive line guys are, to put it simply, they're hitting somebody every play too. So again, longer season, if you can spell guys intelligently throughout the year and save somebody here and there, while simultaneously rewarding a player who's earned it and can work himself in there without messing with that chemistry and cohesion, I think it's definitely a plus for this team over the long haul.
Yeah, I like the decision to play Sierreveld at right guard. Now Donovan Jackson's back. Obviously, he's going to be playing, the vast majority of the minutes there. But I like this decision to play Sierreveld at right guard and get him some snaps. Obviously, again, you're talking about, basically an NFL season at this point with the calendar the way it is, and wanting to keep guys fresh, wanting to keep guys healthy as possible. The other thing, college football is so interesting. You're always playing for the goal right in front of you, of course, of winning the Big Ten, winning the national championship. But you also have to kind of constantly be looking a year or two out, and you're going to lose kind of the heart and soul of that offensive line with McLaughlin and Donovan Jackson after this year. And these are guys who not only are very good players, but they are, as Will Howard talked about, they're making the calls, they're helping set protections, they're helping do everything. And these are the guys who know, kind of how to position everyone else better than anybody. And so Austin Sierreveld is going to be one of those guys next year who's going to be relied on that interior. And so I think you're always looking a step ahead as well. And I think bringing him in cold next year versus getting him in there, luckily able to start a couple games this year because of an unfortunate nagging injury to Donovan, but getting him in there throughout the season makes that such an easier transition, in my opinion, for next year.
That's a great point you make about building for the future. And it's hard to discuss that without talking about, the transfer portal era now. You've got to be able to show guys that, hey, when you're putting in the work in practice, that will reward you with real playing time. And this is just an example of it. And that always helps. Again, like everything you said, building towards the future, getting guys real experience. So you're not bringing them in cold, like you said, as a brand new starter. I've never started a game before this coming season. And again, tie that together with, hey, you've done great for us. Great camp. You've really improved a lot. Here's real playing time as a reward. That way you could go to your guys and say, hey, don't leave in December. Look what happened with our offensive lineman. He proved that he could play, so we got him in there. And you have real evidence to show guys to keep him from potentially jumping into portal when you got a guy that you think could be a guy for you in year 2 or year 3.
It looks like the guys are just about ready, so I want to quickly thank our title sponsor again, Tailgate USA. They sponsored the show. They are a Buckeye-owned business, which we love. We love to work with Ohio, Buckeye-owned businesses if possible. So let me kind of talk through what they do. It's a really kind of a brilliant concept. I'm kind of jealous. I didn't think of it myself. They bring the ultimate customizable tailgating experience right to you. So again, I think everyone likes to tailgate. We all love to go out and kind of hang out and have some drinks and get ready for the game, or get ready, or even you can do it at your home while you're watching the game. You can have your little tailgate parties, but they bring that all to you. The setup and the cleanup, it's so miserable. But with them, they give you a fully stocked trailer or tent, and they clean it up after the game's over. So you've got, from start to finish, they've got you covered. They can provide TVs, on-site bathrooms, grills, seats, everything. I mean, just bartenders. If you need a bartender, I don't want to get up and make someone a drink. It's the fourth quarter. Go get a bartender. They'll bring you in. So they've got the best of kind of both worlds here in terms of the setup, and then even the personnel to help run it. So whether it's you can do this for corporate events, a tailgate at a game. You can have them come over and have it set up a tailgate experience at your house. A Super Bowl party, or we want to watch the Buckeyes on Saturdays at the house. You don't want to deal with the traffic on campus. You can have them come out. They'll set up the whole thing for you. They're in 16 states, but of course their favorite is Ohio because they are owned by a lifelong Buckeye fan and alumni. So if you're thinking about kind of throwing a game day party or anything like that, whether it's during the football season, during the summer, whenever it might be, think about Tailgate USA. Again, wall to wall, set up, tear down. Need a bartender or caterers, they'll do that too. That's Tailgate USA. You can find them at tailgateusa.net. All right. That is our instant reaction recap. We are turning it over to the Buckeye Weekly crew. Tom, Tony, Kevin behind the camera. Take it away.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Devin, for driving the ship for the first half here. Welcome, everybody, to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Moore. Tom, how's it going?
I'm very happy to be in air conditioning, Tony. How are you?
I was in the air conditioning all day, so nothing is new here. Although it is nice that they kept the air on during the entire post game, which I think if you didn't, you would have needed the EMS, but they did. So here we are, Ohio State 49-14. Tom, Lathan Ransom said it wasn't that hot out. He's from Arizona. Would you do you have issue with what he said?
Man is not meant to live in places like Arizona. Living in places like Arizona, I don't want to say it's a sign of mental illness, but if it's 120 degrees outside, that's not where you're supposed to live. And I was told that who was the sideline reporter, Jenny Taft, said on the field apparently it was like 130 or 140 degrees. I can believe it.
Yeah.
It's too windy at Northwestern.
Tom said it was too windy at Northwestern, too hot against Marshall. Yeah, was it too cold, like the season opener against Akron?
You got to remember, Tony, it's not that bad because it's a humid heat. That helps a lot.
Yeah, so welcome, everybody. You guys saw all of the post game for Ryan Day, Will Howard. We'll get to all of that. Let's start, Tom, with the running game, which has continued to progress and is now to the point where they're averaging, at one point, well into the game, they're averaging 14 yards a carry. Now, at that point in time, why throw the ball? But this is an emphatic running game, and Will Howard and everybody else is just like, this is great.
Yeah, and we will get to the super chats in a little bit. We want to get through some of the game content first before we get there. So this is one of these games where the outcome of the game was never in doubt. You're working on stuff. You're trying different things. You're putting some stuff on film. You're getting guys in there. I mean, they were rotating the defensive line basically from the second series of the game. They were rotating the defensive line, and so you're just trying a bunch of different stuff. You can absolutely. They could have run for probably 600 yards on Marshall if they wanted to. If they kept the starters in and just pounded them all game long, I'm sure. I'm sure it would be a lot of fun to see them set school records and all that kind of stuff. What's the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is to win the football game, meet the standard, hit the metrics that the college football playoff wants, and position yourself for success at the end of the season. This game is not going to be the one that decides how this season is remembered. So this was very much a get through it, check the boxes, improve where you can improve, figure out where you need to improve next, and move on.
Yeah, 31 carries, 280 yards. Quinshon Judkins, 173 yards on 14 carries. Good for a 12.4 yard average. Got his 86-yard career long, tied for the third longest rush in Ohio State history. Travion Henderson, a pedestrian, 6 carries for 76 yards, 12.7 yards per carry. Those two, 20 carries, 249 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then you have Will Howard, the touchdown vulture, getting the 1-yarder in there. But like at this point, these two, I think Emeka Egbuka said he's never seen anything like these. Like, this is the best running back tandem in the country. I know Donovan Edwards and Kalal Mullings are going off right now, but like these two, there's almost like, what are they going to do next? When is Travion Henderson going to have one of these games? Because Quinshon Judkins had 4 carries for 103 yards at one point in this one, and he gets the 86-yarder. Travion Henderson had the 40-yarder. I was thinking maybe this would be the week he went off. Only 6 carries. The dude has now, I think, 24 carries in 3 games.
Yeah, and it feels like the whole game felt like, boy, they haven't given the ball to Travion very much. Boy, they haven't thrown the ball to Jeremiah Smith very much. Boy, they haven't thrown the ball to Carnell Tate very much. And even, 14 carries for Quinshon Judkins felt like, oh boy, they're really feeding him. But oh boy, they're not throwing the ball to the tight ends very much. They only had 57 snaps. Yeah. And the problem, and this is, I'm doing the air quotes are happening very strongly here. 2 plays, 70 yards, 6 plays, 45 yards, 1 play, 86 yards, 7 plays, 80 yards, 6 plays, 75 yards, 1 play, 53 yards, 9 plays, 83 yards. Those are the touchdown drives. So when you have a 1 play, 53-yard touchdown drive and a 1 play, 86-yard touchdown drive and a 2 play, 70-yard touchdown drive, yeah, I mean, you're not gonna have that many snaps. Part of that also had to do with the fact that the defense didn't get off the field as quickly as they probably would have liked, but there just weren't that many snaps for them. And it was 57 snaps, and the starters got pulled, more or less beginning of the fourth quarter, give or take. So it was probably about 40-something snaps while the starters were in there. There are not enough footballs to go around for all of the players who are selfishly scoring 80-yard touchdowns.
3 touchdown drives under a minute, actually under 45 seconds. The shortest possession was the kneel down, which was 6 seconds. They had a touchdown drive of 9 seconds and a touchdown drive of 12 seconds. So that is the explosive offense. And Will Howard said it. You guys may have seen it, talking about how he's on the sideline talking to the other quarterbacks. Like, this is crazy, having all of these guys that can score at any point. And the coaches consider the screen game, to the receiver screen game, that's part of the running game as well. So if you want to go ahead and throw in Emeka Egbuka's 68-yarder into this, now you're talking 350 yards rushing basically. But Will Howard's going to take credit for that pass. It was a laser in the box score. 16 of 20 for Will Howard, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns. The interception to Jeremiah Smith. He was asked, the first thing, of course, when a quarterback comes in, what happened on the interception?
Welcome to Columbus, Will Howard.
Yes. So he explained that it was max protect, so there are only 3 receivers out there, and they're clouded to the left. His other read was covered, so like the guy he's supposed to throw to is Jeremiah Smith. And he said, I'm never going to shy away from throwing to Jeremiah Smith. And just sometimes with 50-50 balls, the other guy comes down with it, and that's what happened there. Overall, though, 80% completion percentage, and continues to be in total control of everything he's being asked to do. And he's being asked to do a lot.
Yeah, this is not just dink and dunk all the time. He is making, it feels like, the right decision in the run game more often than not. He's making the right decision in the pass game more often than not. The big mistake, as you said, was he threw it to the right place. And we've talked about Jeremiah Smith 50-50 balls being more like 80-20 balls. That does give you 20% where it doesn't happen. And Jeremiah Smith went over the defensive back and almost pulled it away. It looked like he had it, but the defensive back was kind of between him and the football more or less, and was able to kind of pull it away himself. But that's one, we've talked about that. If you're single covered, you're open as far as they're concerned. Throw the ball up, see what happens. Every once in a while, he's not going to win. There's nothing that is a 100-0 ball. That doesn't exist. If it's even a 60-40, 70-30, you're going to take that chance because you've seen this work already. And there've been a couple times that there was one last week or 2 weeks ago that was a little bit underthrown. Okay. And then there was one that the defensive back, credit the defensive back. That was a heck of a play. Ran stride for stride with him, was at a great position, turned his head at the right time. I mean, that was a great play, but that's what it takes to make that not happen.
Yeah. Emeka Egbuka's first touchdown at home in 53 weeks. Somebody boldly predicted that. Was it you? No, it was not. His first 100-yard game since the Georgia game as well. Yeah. Really? 5 for 117. Well, he had 98 yards in the first half against Western Michigan.
Oh.
He had a 96-yard game and like a 94-yard game last year. The first 100-yard game in a while. Of course, he doesn't really care because he didn't come back to catch a bunch of passes. He came back to beat Michigan, win a Big Ten, and win a national title. And we could spend some time on Jeremiah Smith if we want. Slant and gone. I mean, that's getting to be a habit at this point. And a 53-yarder there. We talked about before the show, before the game on the pregame show, jokingly, maybe this will be just like, a 3 for 56 or something like that. This is a 3 for 70. And he still found a way to get everybody on their feet.
Right. At this point, they throw the ball to him, and it's like, is this the one where he goes, or will it be the next one that looks very – he has not hit a lot of these. Has he hit any of them? I think one was kind of a fade in the end zone. A couple of them were just sort of like little short, close to the line of scrimmage passes, and he just goes. And it's you wonder, you always hear teams talking about like, oh, yeah, they were a little faster on the field than they looked on film. You wonder when teams are going to adjust to that, because very clearly taking a very pedestrian pass and turning it into a long touchdown, that's something that teams are going to have to adjust to. You wonder how they're going to do that, because it can't look that easy forever. You have to, as a defensive coach, defensive coordinator, find a way to make that more of a challenge, because if it is that easy, pitch and catch, 5 yards down the field, 10 yards down the field, and then boom, he's going to run 50 yards and never be it never looks like, oh boy, someone might catch him. Oh boy, I wonder if he's going to make it. It's just pitch, catch. Oh, he's gone. And just that easy.
Yeah. Well, and if you want to stop that, you keep a safety over top or something like that. And then you've got the soft defense that you're just going to run the ball on.
Right.
This is the whole pick your poison thing. And there's no good answer. You just have to hope that plays aren't made, or your guy makes a play as they did on the interception there. So it's just, you're asking a lot. And the offensive line continues to really, really play well. And they were rotating a little bit there with Austin Sierreveld playing some as well. So we saw that, but the offensive line is dominating right now. You saw Donovan Jackson out there as well. And boy, they're playing at a really high level, both against with the run and the pass protection. I'm interested to see where it goes from here, but Iowa coming up, Michigan State coming up, they're going to be put to the test. It's certainly more of a test, but everything they're showing right now tells me that they're going to be up to it.
There's nothing that really jumps out to you, at least on the offensive side of the ball, that jumps out to you as, oh boy, this is a little bit of a concern. It's just the offensive line looked a little wonky, especially in the first half of the first game. Mm-hmm. And then it sort of clicked in the second half, and then they looked dominant against Western Michigan. They looked dominant against Marshall. We'll see what they look like against Iowa. Iowa's got a pretty good defensive line. We'll see what they look like there. That's going to be just such a sound defense that you're going to have to earn it there. But man, Charles Huff was asked about his thoughts on Ohio State, and he said, just like, especially on offense, might be one of the best ever, and compared him to 2019 LSU, 2021 Alabama. And he's a former Alabama assistant, so he knows what he's talking about. This is not just, I watched Joe Burrow one time on TV. He was part of that Alabama coaching staff. So if they're healthy, what do you stop? It feels like the offensive line is ahead of where I thought they would be, and we'll see again that the competition's going to get tougher in the coming weeks. But boy, I look at this team right now on offense, and it's like, who's going to hold this team under? How long do you go into the season before someone holds them under 40 points?
Well, maybe Iowa, because they slow it down enough and they're decent enough. But also, if Ohio State plays to his potential, it's going to be a while. But defensively for Ohio State, because I assume that's going to be where most of the concern is, because
special teams.
Boy, we'll talk about special teams. But defensively, Ohio State gave up 2 touchdown drives, and that was it.
Yeah.
Now, 139 yards passing, 125 yards rushing, 3.8 yards per play. You're going to take that. That's fine. That's 2.9 yards per rush. Again, these are all acceptable numbers. But I know, and I wrote about it last night, that people are going to be a little upset about the quarterback run. And you saw that Stone Earl, quarterback, making some plays in the running game as part of the running game. And Ryan Day was talking about that, saying, that's effective, but you're going to get your quarterback hurt. Or you're going to get him hit. And you saw that he did not last the entire game. And that's the downside of trying to take advantage of that +1, that extra number, that extra blocker for your quarterback in the run game. And, it only lasted so long. And really, it was that first drive that it was effective. And then it was pretty much shut down. And that was something that I, talking to Lathan Ransom about. It's like, you adjust to it, and then you put in another person, and you just be more aware of it, because now that you've seen it in person, you see you're going through the angles, you're seeing how fast he is. But they adjusted pretty quickly. And I mean, the drives tell it as well as we could.
Yeah, the drives for Michigan, for Marshall, 13 plays, 75 yards right out of the gate. And you'll see that sometimes where the opponent will get, you have the scripted drive, and you can really sit down and look at what the opponent, what the defense does, and say, okay, here's how we're going to attack this, here's how we're going to attack that. And if you can get a first down or two and get rolling down the field, the defense doesn't have a ton of time to adjust to what you're doing. That's the whole point of we know all the stuff you're going to want to do. And you get the sense Jim Knowles is not going out there and reinventing the wheel for the first drive of the game. He's going to go out there, he's going to do similar broadly stuff to what he has done in the past, which means if the other team can go out and execute, and to Marshall's credit, they did, they can march down the field. And you have seen sustained drives. This was the first touchdown they gave up all season, so this was the first touchdown also they gave up on the first drive of the game. But I think Akron might have had a decent first drive of that game. So this is not an unheard of thing. But second drive, 4 plays, -3 yards. Third drive, 9 plays, 36 yards. Fourth drive, 3 plays, 4 yards. Fifth drive, 8 plays, 25 yards. And then they had the touchdown right before halftime, which apparently was not a touchdown. It did not look like a touchdown on the video board inside the stadium. And Joe Nugent from NBC4, I retweeted his video. He had video, because I said to him, that looked like it was out of bounds on the stadium scoreboard. He goes, oh yeah, I have a shot. He was definitely out of bounds. So apparently, now the guy caught the ball in the back of the end zone. He was open, and his big toe landed out of bounds. So yeah, you deserve to give up that touchdown, whether it was a real touchdown or not. But after that, second half, 3 plays, 7 yards, 6 plays, 17 yards, 3 plays, 5 yards, 4 plays, 16 yards, 5 plays, 31 yards, and then 3 kneel downs at the end of the game, and that was it. And that's, you didn't play absolutely perfectly like they did against Western Michigan. They didn't hold them under 100 yards of offense. But really, there's not a lot that you look at there other than those 2 drives and go, oh boy.
Something that we don't see a lot of. And he was out there right away. Hero Canoe got the start. We were wondering, would it be Caden McDonald or would it be Hero Canoe? And it was Canoe. And so that was a new thing. But they were rotating guys constantly, and it's kind of a tough ask. Not a tough ask, but you're not at your peak, obviously, when you're missing one of your best defensive linemen and putting other guys in there. So the first drive was successful for Marshall, but after that, I mean, they pretty much slowed everything down. They adjusted, and that first drive, Marshall was 3 for 3 on third downs. So I think they started out like 4 for 5, and then they went 3 for 13 the rest of the game after like those first couple of drives. So Ohio State adjusted and pretty much shut them down, and then you get that 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. And I was just looking at the video you're talking about, and there you could see that his foot was out.
Did the TV broadcast not have an angle that showed his feet?
Well, as we're all watching into the press box, it's like, yeah, he's out, but it's like you could assume his foot was out because the side of his foot is like hanging over the sideline, but there's no clear shot of it just being on the sideline, or like I can't see white or I can't see green, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But if it would have been called out of bounds at the outset, that call would have stood as well.
It wouldn't have gotten overturned. Yeah. Okay.
But special teams, Tom.
Special teams. Boy, Tony, it was not great. He had 3 kickoffs in a row out of bounds. Ralph Russo of the AP tweeted that he didn't think he'd ever seen that before, and I couldn't remember ever seeing that before either. Jaden Fielding, you hope it was just like, yeah, man, had a bad day, and that you just come back and it's fine next week. I assume he's not injured. Did Ryan Day ask about that?
No, yeah, he was asked about it. He just said, no, he's not injured or not necessarily injured. He says like maybe something. He's mentioned it, a hip or whatever, but like basically benched because you want him to play through it, but then also you can't just let him continue to hurt the team. My thought was that they were trying to pin them and go tackle the ball inside the 15.
Yeah.
But after like the second one, it's like, you know what, maybe we're not going to be able to do that.
Right. You see the goalpost down there, just kick it straight towards them as hard as you can and see where it goes. And they brought in Austin Snyder off the bench, did a great job, had 0 kickoffs out of bounds, made a couple PATs. So, you hope Jaden Fielding comes back and is fine next week. Brendan Ennis had a kind of wonky day back returning punts. There was one that it looked like he lost in the sun, and then there was one that was a fumble. He muffed it, and but don't worry, Marshall had an illegal formation. It was just like, man, oh man, whatever has infected the special teams is spreading. So the Buckeyes got lucky there. That very easily could have turned into an extra, minimally field goal, if not touchdown, but it did not. So it was, it was one of those days that if a year ago, if this happened a year ago and you had the special teams track record from a year ago, I know what everyone would have been yelling about, but they made that change, and special teams have been perfectly fine for the first couple weeks of the season. So you assume this is probably an outlier? ?
Well, I mean, there's been muffs two weeks in a row now, right? Or 2 games in a row. I see Nick McClarty got to punt again, only a 30-yarder.
Yeah,
that's
not a good one.
Boy, but other than that, we can go ahead and hit some super chats now that we've run through the stuff.
All right, so here we go. Mike Farino says, "Why do we do this every year with USC? I didn't necessarily believe they were top 20, but I thought they were better than this. As of right now, they're down 14-3, about a minute 14 before halftime. They have the ball, starting another drive. It looks like Alex Orji 4 of 7 for 21 yards." And Michigan is up 14-3. Yeah, Kalala Mullings, 10.3 yards. Donovan Edwards with the most Donovan Edwards line possible. 12 carries for 65 yards. Long of 41 and a touchdown. So he has a 41-yard touchdown and then 11 carries for 24 yards. That is the Donovan Edwards experience right there.
Yeah, 199 yards rushing in the first half for Michigan. 21 yards passing. Maybe defensively do something about that. But if you can't, you can't.
Yeah, Alex Orji, more yards rushing than passing. More than double number of yards rushing than passing. This feels like I know how many tricks the pony has, and as soon as USC figures that out, they're probably not going to get much past 14, you would think. I don't know. What does this say more about USC to you or about Michigan?
Yes. Definitely USC. Now, Michigan's defense, I guess, has been playing well, getting after Miller Moss, and not obviously allowing the run is not happening. -4 yards rushing, but
-4 when you're getting outrushed, 7.4 to -0.6. So that's that is not a winning formula for USC or anyone really.
no. Let's talk about Lathan Ransom, who might.
Oh, we got another super chat. Another super chat from Mike Farino. Only drive OSU punted on with the first team defense was the drive where Day took the 15-yard penalty. Yeah, that was one where I understood why he was upset, but that penalty also derailed the drive. That they were marching. They were into Marshall territory. It was 1st and 10, and then he they had to burn a timeout. He gets that 15-yard penalty, and it was like, I understand why you're upset. I'm not sure getting that mad is going to materially change anything, but it killed the drive.
People wanted him to be fired up, to be pay more attention. He said, "Well, I'm no longer calling plays, so I've got time." He's got time now. He did say, "I didn't curse. I don't know why I got the penalty. I guess I yelled a little too loud."
Well, yeah, and this was one where whichever presidential candidate pledges to throw this entire officiating crew in a secret prison and throw away the key, like just extraordinary rendition to a CIA black site, they will win the state of Ohio. I don't know if anyone's going to be brave enough to make that pledge, but if they do, was it a Big Ten crew?
If you're paying Marshall, I assume it's Big Ten officials.
Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it could be. I mean, I didn't recognize the crew, and I thought, oh, this must be like a terrible Sunbelt crew. Maybe it's a terrible Big Ten crew. I don't know.
I don't think there are any of those.
I look forward to speaking with Bill Carollo next July about this.
Who's your worst crew, Bill? Yeah, Day was obviously not happy, and he said it 2 weeks ago. I'm going to defend my guys, talking about the targeting for Denzel Burke, but then also another targeting call for Caden Curry, which was not very violent, but helmet to helmet is what I guess what the call is always going to be, unless it's not. We never know.
Okay, before we get to the super chat from Michael, I want to put in my own super chat. Tony, I will hand you $2 if you can tell me how the targeting rule that resulted in Caden Curry getting ejected today is the same targeting rule that involved that resulted in the hit in the Peach Bowl a couple of years ago, not having a player get ejected for targeting.
Right. Refs. Care to comment? Like, targeting is it's opinion based. It's like it's emotion. It's what do you feel? What do you think? What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about targeting. No, I'm thinking about Arby's. Like, it's ridiculous.
It just feels like I understand what you're trying to do here, but the hit that Caden Curry had,
much more violent,
was not. He didn't launch. He didn't hit him with the crown of his helmet. He didn't hit him in the side of his helmet. That's not a hit. If that hit causes severe head injury, there would not be a football player alive in America. That's one that's like, yeah, okay, sure. If the rule says that, then I guess, but what's the purpose of the targeting call? The purpose of the targeting call is to avoid head injury. So why wouldn't you call it on the ones that are likely to cause head injury rather than just like, well, according to, listen, far be it for me to get on people for loving bylaws. However, that felt real ticky-tack. Watching it live, I thought he must have hit him with his blow to the head with his hand when he was trying to hit the pass, and that was it. And then no, because it was like that was a weak roughing the passer call, and it was an even weaker targeting call. It was very strange.
Yeah, he was leaning forward and hit his helmet into the face mask. Whereas the Marvin Harrison thing that you're talking about, Marvin Harrison lunged his head into a Georgia defender who was trying to leap out of the way.
Is that how you remember that?
That is how I remember that, and that is what caused Marvin Harrison, of course, to lose consciousness.
Okay, so here, let's get to the one from Michael. What went wrong on the interception? I couldn't watch the game today. We talked about it a minute ago, but basically, Will Howard, they were in max protect. So they had the 3-man route. The coverage was shaded to the left. Jeremiah Smith was to the right. It was a one-on-one play, threw it up. Jeremiah Smith was there. The Marshall corner made a great play on the ball, was running stride for stride with Jeremiah Smith, turned his head, got his head around. Jeremiah Smith went up over him in the way that we have seen him do before and got both hands on the football, and you thought, oh man, he's going to do it again. And then the Marshall guy was able to just kind of wrestle it away from him. That to me was just kind of a tip your cap play. Like, yeah, that I have no issues. The ball went to the right place. I will always take my chance with Jeremiah Smith in one-on-one coverage. The guy just made a heck of a play.
Yeah, and I don't know if an interception is automatically a negative play when you're grading, because if you're making the right read, that's what that was. Or, I guess you could have just taken off or something of that nature. But so another super chat.
Yeah, super chat from Mike Frano says, shout out to PSU, who with 15 seconds left in the clock in the first half managed to get to 28 points versus Kent State, who gave up 65 in the first half last week versus Tennessee. That's not even the worst of it. That game was 7-0 Penn State with 6 minutes left in the second quarter. 7-0 Penn State, and they scored. Nick Singleton had a 17-yard reception and then a reception from a touchdown pass by Drew Aller, and then and the Nick Singleton one must have been a trick play because it looks like Tyler Warren threw it. So you're running trick plays to get up to 14-0 against Kent State with 5.5 left in the second quarter, and then Drew Aller had a 5-yard rush. So it's not great.
No, they finished strong though. That's what James Franklin is known for. When the chips are down, James Franklin and his team come through and make plays when they have to absolutely be made.
Here's the other thing. Here's the drive chart for Penn State. They only had 6 possessions in the first half. Interception, touchdown, punt, touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. So it's not quite as bad as it looks, I guess, but it's not like Kent State's been moving the ball on them. -2 yards, 13 yards, 34 yards, 2 yards, 14 yards, 5 yards, -5 yards. That's the first half drive chart for Kent State. So they're not moving the ball on them.
They are milking the clock. Look at the time of possession on those short drives.
And Penn State has not. Penn State, this might be more than anything. Hey, Penn State doesn't really have a lot of explosive players. 9 plays on the first drive that ended in an interception, 9 plays in the second drive for a touchdown, 5 plays in the third drive for a punt, 7 play drive for a touchdown, 6 play drive for a touchdown, and 6 play drive for a touchdown. So the Penn State offense continues to not be very good, especially in the passing game. Shout out though to former Buckeye Julian Fleming, 2 catches, 60 yards. He had 1 catch for 3 yards, I believe, in the first couple weeks of the season. So 2 catches, 60 yards, long of 39 for him. But once again, leading receiver, Tyler Warren, tight end, 5 catches, 50 yards.
Yeah, there are a lot of good Big Ten tight ends this year, and he's been one of the best. I want to talk about Lathan Ransom, who led the team with 8 tackles, 6 solos, a tackle for loss, forced fumble that Caleb Downs almost recovered on the sideline, very, very close. Shouldn't have even been that close. I don't know how he got that close. But he continues to be one of the best players I've seen all year, and he's around the football. He's a sure tackler. He is a guy that you can rely on to cover whatever, whether it's run support or to be half of the defense in the secondary. He is having the senior season that Ryan Day probably envisioned as a true freshman, although I don't know if he figured he'd be here this long after seeing him as a true freshman. But I know Caleb Downs gets a lot of the pub. Lathan Ransom continues to be maybe the best player on defense for the Buckeyes overall. I mean, he has not had a bad moment yet.
No, he's been just very consistent, very reliable. That's what you're looking for out of your veteran safeties. You want guys who just, where they're going to be, they're going to make the plays. But he's been really productive too. 8 tackles, 6 solos, a tackle for loss, a forced fumble you mentioned. That's the second time he's led them in tackles this year, which you don't necessarily think of him as the guy who's going to be doing that. I mean, and frankly, typically when a safety leads you in tackles, that's not always a good sign. With Lathan Ransom, it is a good sign because he's playing a lot closer to the line of scrimmage and just making a lot of plays in space. There was one where Marshall ran like a drag across the middle, and I think it was to a tight end. And it was like a 3rd and 1 or something like that. And in the first half, and Ransom broke on it. Ransom saw it happening, broke on it so quickly, had just the perfect angle, cut the guy down for a 1-yard loss, and I think they ended up punting on that drive. But it was just one of these like little things that it's not, that's not the play that everyone's going to walk out of the stadium talking about. But it was just such a heady play, just right place, right time, broke on it, very decisive, almost certainly something he has seen on film and recognized, and that allows you to really react quickly and just keeps making plays. He has been. I always say Ty Hamilton is the most underrated player on the team and on the defense. I think Lathan Ransom, even for as much credit as Lathan Ransom gets, he might still be in that most underrated category.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We can start taking some questions. I will just say this. I think I might be on the side that says Arvell Reese is the best linebacker on the team. And he's not going to be starting over Cody Simon, but the rotation that they had out there today, they're going to rotate in games like this. But this is not Sonny Styles' best game. This is not CJ Hicks' best game. They need more out of that position, and I'm not expecting them to go to Arvell Reese and be the second linebacker in with Cody Simon, but the other guys need to continue to do more. Like Sonny Styles missed the sack. It's like, I'm sure that's killing him, but that's when you've got to bring down. You're bigger than the quarterback. Wrap him up, but they need to. I think they just need more plays out of the linebackers overall, because they're going to run into teams that can do more. And the quarterback run was effective to a point, then it wasn't. But you're going to run into, Caleb Johnson at Iowa can run the ball. When you've got that kind of a threat, that you're going to have, your linebackers are going to have to be on point. And if not, then now you're bringing in the safeties in. And one bad angle is going to cost you. So I just need to see more out of the linebackers as a group. Arvell Reese, again, pretty decent day, 5 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. Just looking at the solo tackles from the linebackers, there aren't a ton there, because there's gang tackling and not jumping on piles, but there's just a lot of defenders around right now, and I think that's also a very good thing.
Well, and you're not seeing them getting challenged downfield all that often. So that means there are a lot of guys around. So there are a lot of times when I'm shooting pictures and there's 3 defenders right there surrounding whoever's got the ball. We've got a bunch of interviews that we have not. We've been talking about Lathan Ransom. Do we want to hear from Lathan Ransom?
Yeah, we can talk to Lathan Ransom. Here he is talking about, one, I think this is part of the clip. He was asked about the heat, and he said, I'm from Arizona. This isn't hot. But
erroneous.
But overall, just what a day like today does for the defense and defending the quarterback, and what they needed to do to continue to do that. So here's Lathan Ransom.
Plays, but definitely stuff we got to learn from and correct, and definitely get right to it tomorrow.
Was there anything about their attack that really concerns you going into this more than anything else?
With the air raid, every team we go against, there's always a concern or things that we see on the scouting report that we got to be ready for. And we execute some of those things, but there's also some things we need to correct. So it's going to get on the film and fix those.
Can you give an example?
No.
The offense came out with some really explosive plays. How much of a relief was that for the defensive unit?
Yeah, offense played great. I mean, established the runner early. When Sean and Trey ran the ball really hard. And you always love to see that. It gets everyone going, brings a lot of energy. And then obviously opened up play for the pass game. And couldn't see very much. We just always looking at the film, but it looked like made a lot of plays throwing the ball slow.
When the offense scores that quickly, does that put pressure on the defense? Because you guys don't get as much time to look at film in between series when they're scoring on 1-3 play drives.
Yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to complain about the offense scoring fast. So I think I'm always excited if they're scoring fast.
Could you tell, though, did their offense look a little more in sync than it maybe did when y'all watch video of like them against Virginia Tech and stuff? It seemed like their quarterback was a little more on point. I
mean, we've seen against Virginia Tech, there were some plays that they missed, or there were some drops that it could have been a lot closer game. So we had a lot of respect for Marshall coming into the game, and y'all see why.
How ready are you for the Big Ten play starting next week?
Oh, super excited, man. Super excited. I can't wait to play some of the Big Ten teams. Those games are always exciting, especially our first away game. So can't wait to go play. And I think it's a night game, too. So super excited for that game.
What kind of a factor at all, if any, was the heat today?
Nah, I'll never complain about the heat. I'm from Arizona, man. It ain't even that hot for real. So I never complain about the heat.
Lathan, you don't see the air raid a lot, but to get experience against it, I mean, down the road, you don't know who you may face in a playoff like that. To get experience against it, get it on film, how helpful is that?
Oh, extremely helpful. I mean, I bet you there's going to be a lot of teams that watch this and try to take stuff from this game. So we always got to, fix the corrections and be ready for whoever we play.
Lathan, you guys giving up some quarterback runs initially, but then locked it down. What goes into that?
Yeah, when they get a light box and they check to the run, everyone's fits got to be correct. So we fixed our corrections and stopped it in the second half.
Without Tyleek today, what was it like to see some of the younger guys step up?
Oh, great! I think the young guys stepped up really well, and that's what's so special about our team is we have. They always say have a pair and a spare. So always have two dudes that's always ready to play, and a backup that's just as ready. So I think those dudes stepped up and played really well.
So there's Lathan Ransom, arguably the best player in the country, Tom. Heisman hopeful on my ballot, probably second or third right now. I'm not supposed to talk about our ballots, but continuing to play well. So one of the true spokesmen of the team. He's very soft spoken, but so is Emeka Egbuka, and I want to bring him up because he had, as we said, first touchdown here in over a year. I asked him about it. He's like, it's not, it is what it is. Like I don't really care. I remember asking him last year about when he came in from injury. Are you trying to make up for lost time? He's like, I don't care about stats. And when he tells you that, you start to believe him. And so here's Emeka talking about having a big day, blocking, and some other things.
Point it has to be. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that responsibility not only falls on Coach Hart, but it falls on me as well, being a captain and being a leader of the offense of the receiver room. So that's something I'm continually harping on the young guys in the room, making sure the blocking is top tier because of the athletes that we have in the backfield. Any play can become an explosive play at any time. So we're always talking about the situations. Coach Jay is always hammering home the situations. And the explosive play battle is one that you see kind of tilt the odds of whatever team when it comes to matchup games. So having explosive plays is crucially important, and blocking on the perimeter just ups the chances of that.
What's going through your mind as you see the flag and they're talking over the flag on your touchdown?
I don't know if you guys can see it on the playback, but I just started laughing just because I just it would be a flag, but it was all good. The fact that they pulled it back, obviously, there's a little relief in my spirit, but I had no doubt that if it even was a flag, we were going to go down and score probably in the next play. So that's just the mentality.
Your first touchdown in Ohio Stadium, I think, in 53 weeks. Has it been a long time coming for you?
It's whatever. I mean, another day in the office. I'm just going to, do my job to the best of my ability. If the ball comes my way, it does. But at the end of the day, there's a responsibility deeper than just statistics. We're trying to make a legendary run this year. And, you can't have that selfish mentality.
With that in mind, your sense of this offense right now, headed to Big Ten play, what's your sense of this offense? Have y'all just scratched the surface?
Our goal is, we're never satisfied. Obviously, you hear that time and time again. But it's really the true way we go about our mentality. Even if we had 800 yards a day, there's always going to be something you can find on film to fix. So we're trying to continue to build week through week, just take it one day and one play at a time. But obviously right now I feel like we're in a decent spot. We're able to have a successful running game, a successful passing attack. So a lot of credit to the coaches.
So there's Emeka Egbuka, 5 catches, 117 yards, not a career high. He's had some big games in his Ohio State career. We'll probably have some more on his way to if he has a season similar to what he did as a sophomore. We'll leave Ohio State as the all-time leading receiver, all-time leading yardage receiver, and is now, 12th?
Yeah, just passed D. Miller for 12th all-time. There he is, boy, our producer, right on the spot there. 21, 23, 90 yards behind Garrett Wilson for 11th. Just past D. Miller, Ted Ginn, who was at the game today, Joey Galloway. So, already passing some pretty big names. And he's someone who he feels like another guy who's maybe a little underappreciated by Ohio State fans, which is wild because he came in as a 5-star number 1 receiver in the country, and everyone couldn't wait till he got to Ohio State. And then he's gotten banged up a couple times, and that's limited the top line production. And now he's not the new and shiny, exciting freshman. So everyone's kind of like, oh yeah. Oh, and also him. He is the and the rest of the Gilligan's Island intro. And which is crazy because already, as we just showed you, 12th in the school history in terms of yardage, going to work his way up that yardage list this year. And so he's someone who came in as a 5-star, extremely highly touted, absolutely has lived up to the hype in the expectations there in every way. Even though he's been banged up, he's still, when he's on the field, he's just so consistent, so reliable.
Yeah, ignore him at your own peril. I understand you wanting a defense wanting to worry about Jeremiah Smith. The same thing with Carnell Tate. If you want to leave any of these guys alone, they're going to, Will Howard's going to find him. They'll draw stuff up for him, and they'll make him pay. We got some questions.
We do. Gary Williams says there's absolutely no need to worry about the defense. The other team is going to make plays sometimes.
No. The other team making plays, that is a weakness of a defense. That should never happen, Tom. I don't care. You tell me, but they're just, they're 20-year-olds. I don't care. They're humans. I don't care. You play Ohio State defense, Tom. You should not allow a single yard to anybody. I don't care if it's Walter Payton the third, Walter Payton the fourth, Walter Payton the first. You shouldn't be giving up yards to anybody. What do you think about that? Tough guy.
I think Walter Payton II was Jarrett Payton, if I remember correctly. But you look at this game, and it was a couple drives, and I don't know that there were – I mean, you have a better view of the game than I do. So was there anything that you looked at after the first drive? I kind of set the first drive aside. Was there anything that you saw that was, oh boy, this is a big concern? Here is where a better team is going to be able to attack this defense in a spot where they're vulnerable.
Well, I think a quarterback that can run is always going to put your defense at peril because you can't account for him. And if you do, then you're not accounting for somebody else. So I think that is going to be a concern. And as I said, the linebackers are also maybe the concern. And I don't know if it's a concern, but when we're talking relative to the entire defense, it might be the biggest concern. Not having Tyleik Williams today was an issue. And it's something that we have talked about plenty with the defensive tackle depth, where they like Caden McDonald. They love Caden McDonald, but they need more guys behind him. And then they threw Taiwan Malone out there very early. You had Will Smith out there. Obviously had Hero Canoe. Jason Moore was out there right away as well. So these are guys that have had single-digit snaps, maybe combined all season long, and they're out there in the first quarter, second quarter, and being called upon to do something that they have not ever done at Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, the picture on the screen right now is Caden McDonald and Hero Canoe, and that was in the second quarter. Those guys were out there very, very early. And that felt very intentional out of Larry Johnson, that this was a day where, we talked about it earlier, 130 or 140 degrees, whatever it was on the turf. As a gentleman of larger carriage, I can tell you that this is probably not a great day to be a lineman on the field. You want to rotate those guys. You want to keep them fresh. And that accomplishes a couple things. Number one, you keep those guys fresh. But also, this is not a game where you're going to lose. So you want to figure out what you got. This is the kind of thing that we compliment Michigan for all the time, how they really roll their guys. There's Caden Curry. This was a sack. This was not the one that was a targeting penalty. But you want to keep those guys in there. You want to know what you got. And they always say you don't really know what you got until the bullets start flying. So you have to see them in a real live game. And some of those guys are probably more ready for action than others and in a big time game. But boy, the depth on that defensive line, the way they've rolled those guys, that's impressive because they probably had, even without Tyleik Williams and with Caden Curry only playing a half basically, the most well-timed targeting call in the history of football, where it was 12 seconds left in the first half. It had happened on the first play of the third quarter. He would have missed the first half of the next game. Nope. Misses exactly half of game plus 12 seconds. But you get those guys in there. You have so much film to look at now. And for as many guys as they've rotated through, some are going to be more ready than others, but they certainly have more guys who are ready to play now than they did at this time on the defensive line in a lot of recent seasons, it feels like.
Yeah, and that drive, the second drive where they scored a touchdown, you had the targeting, you had the Ryan Day penalty, and then you had the foot that was questionable. Yeah. So, there's a lot going into getting that second touchdown for Marshall. So, I think we always kind of expect an offense to move the ball against Ohio State in the first drive early on, because they've got the script, they've been working on it, they've put in stuff that isn't necessarily on film yet, especially now when there's very little film. So there's a lot of new stuff you can do. and then the defense has to adjust. The defense did adjust, but I'm not going to get too outraged by giving up 2 touchdowns in the first half. But if we're asking, where are the weaknesses of this? It's the same things we pointed out before the season. It's interior line depth, and it's linebacker, because you're talking about Sonny Styles is new there. CJ Hicks has never been consistent there and has never started, and he's a junior. And you've got Cody Simon, who has played plenty, and we were confident that he would be fine. Nobody talked about Arvell Reese. He was the number 3 middle linebacker. The backup middle linebacker was Gabe Powers until he wasn't. So I think there's still there's development going on. There's depth going on. They're going to have to start correcting some of those issues that some of these guys are having, and they've got time. I am interested to see what Aiden Childs does next week against this defense after seeing what went on here. But I know that Michigan State doesn't want to put him into peril as much as Earl Stone Earl, yeah, was today.
Yeah, that is a great. No, I must be saying this name wrong,
No,
because
no.
your first name sounds like a last name, and your last name sounds like a first name. I think you have seen enough from these guys that you're starting to see the depth chart change a little bit. And yeah, the linebacker play is not where they need it to be at the end of the year, but the linebacker depth chart is not probably right now where it might end up at the end of the year. And if you've got Cody Simon, who is sort of all reliable there, and you've got Arvell Reese, who seems like he's really making a good impression and earning more playing time, and you're seeing that reflected. It's not just, oh boy, he should be playing more. It's no, he is playing more right now. So they're adjusting, and that's why you're throwing all these guys out there, because then you're getting an opportunity to learn from that and for them to learn as well.
Yeah, I guarantee Larry Johnson looked at this as an opportunity for everybody in his room to play, and they did, and they played a lot.
Warpug says Devin Brown is a good guy and a loyal Buckeye, but I'd prefer to see Julian Sayin coming in and playing a serious second half. Sayin is likely the starter. We need to have a quarterback who has experience.
I don't disagree, but I also understand exactly why they're doing this. Devin Brown has the experience, and if something goes down, he is the guy. Now, to sacrifice snaps that Devin Brown still needs for the guy who would be the starter next year or something like that, they're not going to do. But also it's something we've talked about, where if Sayin and Devin Brown are close to even, don't you have to go with the younger guy? But at this point, I don't think they are close to even based on everything that Ryan Day has shown us. And also, the backup quarterback battle stops in preseason practice. Pretty much, yeah. I don't know what it would take for Julian Sayin to surpass Devin Brown at this point. You need a certain number of reps. If you're going to be the next guy up in a year when you are taking that natty or bust mentality, you have to have someone who you trust. And Tony, what do you always say about true freshman quarterbacks? They are going to cost you a game if they're starting as a true freshman quarterback.
And so, yeah, I mean, you saw it with Nebraska on Friday night. And so is Ohio State in a position right now where they're willing to sacrifice a game? I don't know which game it would be. I can tell you if Dylan Raiola or Julian Sayin, hey, take your pick, was starting for Ohio State at Oregon, the people who right now are saying, yeah, I would want, Julian Sayin, they will not be okay if Ohio State loses at Oregon. So even though that doesn't, that's not a season killer in the way that it would be in the past. And of course, there's no guarantee that Devin Brown would win at Oregon either, but the coaching staff right now has to play the guys who they feel give them the best chance to win, and the best chance to win right now. And as we said, you just saw it on with the linebackers. The depth chart is not in stone right now. So if Julian Sayin has clearly moved ahead of Devin Brown, I'm sure you will see that on the field. It feels like, based on what the coaches are doing, we always say, watch what they do, not what they say. Based on what they're doing, it feels like they think Devin Brown is still ahead of Julian Sayin.
Yeah, and coaches are terrified to mess with the backup quarterback situation, because more than anybody else, they believe you're one play away. Like, that backup quarterback is one play away. So you better have him ready. You can't be like, let's just see. Let's just see if we can get this other guy in there and see what this, let's give Julian Sayin a backup reps for an entire week. That's not going to happen, because you have to have that backup ready. And Devin Brown right now is that guy. Did not have a great afternoon today. 2 of 6 passing, was not all that accurate from what I saw, but I also was on my way downstairs through most of it. But,
Yep. Geiger Lee says, what about all the slips today? Ongoing problem in the shoe. I assume there were a lot of slips during the course of the game. I have a feeling it was the turf was so hot and it was humid. I normally will shoot from like on my knees because you get a good angle, like looking up at the players. When the ball was more than about 20, 30 yards down the field, I shot standing up today because there were heat waves. Like your pictures looked fuzzy, like out of focus because there was heat waves coming up off of the field. I think it might have just been so hot, the little chopped up tires inside there, maybe were sweating, something like that. It just, I did not go around and like slide my feet on the turf to see like we did at the Fiesta Bowl a few years ago, where it's like, oh boy, this grass is really slippery. But I have a feeling it was probably something along those lines.
Yeah, that was my thought. It was just heat related, and you would expect that it would get better as it gets cooler, but we will see.
Mike Schaefer says, Fryer had a rough game. Any wonder why most runs were to the left, even when OSU was on the left hash? Did you feel like Josh Fryer had a rough game?
Fryer gave up a 1 pass rush, but that was, that's always going to be noticeable, you know, and so then maybe, I don't know if that clouds the entire opinion. I'm not saying that, but I'm not going to nitpick with the offensive line today with the running game, 9 yards a carry. And it wasn't just all up the gut. They were running outside and doing all kinds of different things, some misdirections, some counters. So when you're doing that, you've got all 5 guys doing their own thing and having to do get their 1/5, if you will. And so we'll watch it again and see, keep an eye on that. But I don't think there's any concern for Josh Fryer within the program. But yeah, he had the one pressure that he gave up that led to the sack, the 1 sack, I believe, in the game.
Yeah, and the guy who had the sack was Mike Green, and he's the guy who was leading the nation in sacks per game, coming in 1.75 per game, and got 1, but they had that sack and then 2 other tackles for loss, and that was it. And the Buckeyes ran the ball for 9 yards a carry. I mean, it feels like the offensive line is ahead of where I expected it to be this time. And boy, there's going to be some cognitive dissonance around the future of Justin Fry, depending on whether people focus more on recruiting or on-field performance. Right now, you look at the on-field performance, and you have to say, yeah, seems like he's doing a good job. I mean, they've turned over a decent chunk of the line, and they've been fine. They brought in Seth McLaughlin, who's done a great job as a center. They've developed Tager Shabola. That is very clearly a development job by Justin Fry. Donovan Jackson has been very solid, but Austin Searveld, who has been in there a bunch, is very clearly a Justin Fry development job. Josh Fryer has been a multi-year starter and has been certainly solid. I mean, you're not comparing him to Orlando Pace. He's not a first-team All-American, but he's been doing a solid job. And Josh Simmons, who everyone kind of looked at and laughed and pointed when they got Josh Simmons has turned into a fantastic left tackle. That he's going to be first, second round kind of pick potentially when he hits the draft. And that's a guy who was the most penalized player in the nation, or whatever the stat was, when he was at San Diego State. So it feels like the development is there with with Justin Fry. So I know everyone wants to get on him for the recruiting stuff, and I get it, and I certainly understand it, but you have to also, take the whole picture and go, yeah, there's stuff he's doing really well too.
Well, and I said it before the season, like, even if this offensive line does well, that doesn't mean that Justin Fry, that this won't be his last year, because Chip Kelly and Ryan Day will know the facts of, the offensive or the running game is fantastic, but it's because of scheme. It's because of Tim Drevno helping out, and it's Mike Saletti helping out, and it's Chip Kelly helping out. They'll understand all that. But like, when your offensive line is playing this well, you would expect the offensive line coach to stick around. But I mean, Ryan Day has gotten rid of position coaches before when it's like, well, I didn't realize they were even on the hot seat.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things where you have to, Ryan Day at this point, you have to give him the benefit of the doubt on this kind of stuff, because as you said, he does have a lot more information than we have or anyone else out there in YouTube land has. And you have seen him cut bait on people who, Perry Eliano last year, they were, the safety play wasn't terrible last year, and the recruiting has been okay at safety. I was a little surprised to see Perry Eliano go. Corey Dennis got let go. Parker Fleming got let go. I mean, you've seen him cut bait on guys, and I think some of those guys were maybe people that Ohio State fans were going, yes, but why not sooner? And all of this is, you want to. If you fire everyone after 1 year, you're going to have a tough time hiring people in the future. So there's sort of layers to, I think, some of this. Yasharil LG says, today was a letdown game. Good thing we had our letdown game against Marshall. From here on out, we need to see perfection, no sluggish teams, and just because one player's out on defense.
Well, I mean, let down in what way? Because this was a 3-quarter game, essentially. Ohio State scores 49. They gave up, again, 2 touchdown drives, the second drive being helped out by Ohio State's doing, the first drive being a scripted congratulations, great preparation, credit the other team. They will play better offenses. So, I understand being concerned. They won by 35 and would have won by more if you really want to keep the offense out there and pushing it. The offense was fine. 289 yards passing, 280 yards rushing. That's going to win you every single game. Defense holding the opponent to 3.8 yards per play is generally going to be a winning number as well. 2.9 yards per rush, unless you convert third downs and fourth downs. Like 2.9 yards per rush is not going to get you anywhere either.
No, those are a lot of winning metrics. You outgain 10 yards per play to 3.8 yards per play. If you're outgaining your opponent by 6 yards per play, something has to go real wrong for you to lose. And even if, it's not the best competition they're going to face this year by any means, but okay, give Marshall another yard per play. Take 3 yards per play off of Ohio State. They're still outgaining Marshall by a couple of yards per play, or by the opponent by a couple of yards per play. And if you outgain the opponent by a couple of yards per play, you're going to win more often than not. So this is one of those things where, everyone wants to sort of project, well, if they play like this against Oregon, well, they're not going to play. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be different against Oregon. The game plan's probably a little more bespoke and not just sort of, playing generic. You're not going to be rolling lines the way they were rolling lines. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be different. So you have to, everyone wants to say that if they play like this, it's going to, you can't, this is not like an apples to apples kind of situation. Warpug says, I did see a lot of apparent makeup plays to get Ibuka and Tate in on the targets. Isolating and shutting down any part of the OSU offense is okay for a play or two.
Yeah, I mean, there's the thing that MGO blog talks about, rock, paper, scissors, where sometimes you just guess right and you prepare correctly and you guess right on a play. It's kind of like the Tecmo Bowl. I mean, you've got a 25% chance of guessing the right play that the opponent is running. So unless it's Bo Jackson, then it doesn't matter. But there's only so much you can do against this Ohio State offense. You can only stop them for so long. As long as they are executing, you probably can't stop them. Now, a lot of this is like, you hope that Will Howard he was not connecting with the tight ends today. Some of his throws were off. You're like, if that just happens on third down, we're great. There's some hope involved with defenses, the opposing defenses. Like, we're going to do everything we can. We know that we can't stop everybody. We're going to try to stop what we can. And then 80% we're going to try to stop what we can. 20% we're going to hope this gets stopped over here and see how it goes. But if the execution is there, as Will Howard said, any play that they run can go the distance if it's blocked well and if he's on target, if he's throwing. And we've seen evidence of that. Let's see it against the Big Ten, though.
Well, and it's funny, we're sitting here nitpicking, there were a couple throws that were behind tight ends or whatever. I'm going to call for our producer to pull up the Charles Huff soundbite where he was asked about, earlier in the week he said this is, one of the greatest teams ever, potentially. And after the game, he was asked about, do you still feel like that? You've seen them in person now. Do you still feel like that? And, after all we're talking about here, all the stuff that went, oh boy, this throw was bad. And oh boy, one of the tackles wasn't very good. And oh boy, here's Charles Huff's answer on. And before we get to that, I will remind you, Charles Huff is a former Alabama assistant. So he's going to be talking about a couple SEC teams. This is not, I saw these guys on TV one time. This is, I coached for and against these teams. So here's Charles Huff talking about Ohio State, and is Ohio State one of the best teams ever?
Offensively, absolutely. And then defensively, they smother you. You know, they kind of just lean on you and kind of weigh you down a little bit. And that's what kind of happened to us. Let me say that. I can't speak for whoever else they're going to play. But defensively, they kind of just laid on us long enough to wear us down offensively. Offensively, I don't know. I mean, 2019 LSU, 2021 Alabama, they're probably in that realm. I mean, they're really good. They're really good. We didn't make it hard on them today by missing tackles. That doesn't help, but they're really good. Hats off to them. Coach Day's done a phenomenal job building this program. You know, he was able to retain a lot of players that had opportunities to go other places. Some guys came into the program. If they can stay healthy, I don't even know if they need to stay healthy. They probably just put the fifth guy in, but it was good. It was good. They're good. A lot of respect for them. And don't get me wrong, we didn't make it easy on them. You know, by some of the things we tripped ourselves up with, but they're good. They're good.
So there you go, Charles Huff talking about the Ohio State offense, explaining away like why he was so willing to put tutors out there for the NIL stuff.
We have a long extended soundbite from Charles Huff on tutors as well that was pretty funny. We may wrap the show with that one, but I think you hear him compare Ohio State to offensively to 2019 LSU, 2021 Alabama. That's the benchmark. That's it. Those are the best of the best in terms of offenses, and was there for them and is saying, yeah, right there. And yeah, to his point, yes, they did miss some tackles. You know who else I saw miss some tackles last weekend?
Georgia?
Oh, no. Well, sorry. Noise unrelated. Sorry. Believe me, if I could make a drag racing noise, I would. However, the Georgia Bulldogs missed a whole bunch of tackles at the line of scrimmage against the Kentucky Wildcats. So this is not just, that obviously won't happen against better teams. And okay, if Marshall tackles perfectly, guess what? They're still probably losing that game by 3 touchdowns, even if they play perfect defense the whole time.
Well, and you have to be close enough to tackle some guys. Like,
yes,
even the slant to Jeremiah Smith, I don't think that's a missed tackle. They just couldn't get to him. No. Super chat from
Rick Reese says Tyleek's absence was definitely noticed today.
Yeah, I would agree. And there would be series where maybe he gets into the backfield and a 2nd and 4 becomes a 3rd and 8, or he stops at 3rd and 2, or a first down becomes a 2nd and 12, and now you're completely off schedule. He's got to get you off schedule, makes plays, has to concern the entire offensive line. And when he's not out there, you can be like, you know what, let's go up the middle. Let's attack the defensive line. Let's attack the tackles and see how it goes. And it went pretty good for a while until it didn't.
We're gonna thank our sponsors real quick before we move too much further on. This is the Postgame Tailgate. We are presented by Tailgate USA, proud sponsor of the Buckeye Huddle Postgame Show. There it is. Why Tailgate USA, Tony? Well, first of all, why not? Let me tell you something. Every time I walk through those tailgating lots, I'm like, I love what I do. I enjoy it. Tailgating is pretty fun. I do sometimes miss hanging out in the parking lot and enjoying food, beverages, the general what have you.
Tom, you could have Tailgate USA just come to your house, set up a tailgate, and then you could just get all of your bad idea.
No. Too good of an idea is what I'm thinking.
Tailgate USA, 2 of my favorite things. Tailgate USA. But if you want to, you want to tailgate, you can do that at Ohio State, and they'll fully customizable kitchen, grill, tent,
bartender. Yeah.
Like whatever you think you would need, they have all of that available for you, and will come and take care of everything for you and put it all up. Mm-hmm. When you're done, Tom, what can they do?
They can take it all down, and should make a point here. This is not just for Ohio State home games thing. No. Yes, they will do it for Ohio State home games. They're in 16 cities around the nation, so hit some Ohio State road games as well. Road game tailgate's always fun as well. So all the good stuff of the best part of the year, none of the bad stuff. You don't have to do any of the dishes. Do you know what a joy it is to be able to just have a tailgate party and not have to do any of the cooking or the setup or the cleanup or the dishes? I mean, I don't know that I can say comprehensively in the history of the universe this is the greatest idea ever, but it feels like it's at least in the conversation.
You know, like grandparents can just play with kids and then leave. This is like the grandparents of partying in a sense. But so check them out, tailgateusa.net. We would appreciate you helping them out because they're helping us out. So thank you for that.
Michigan, USC has scored 9-yard touchdown. It's 14-10 now in the third quarter. I'm sure Michigan's passing offense will snap right to attention, and it'll be fine.
I don't know if it'll need to, but they might want to hit a long one. Yes. So you want to throw it to
no, we can wrap
okay, we'll wrap it up then. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Before you go, if you could hit the thumbs up if you have not yet done that, we would appreciate that. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done that. Of course, subscribe to BuckeyeHuddle.com. Find us there right now, running a flash sale in your first month for just $4.99. Become a member. Check us out on the message board. See what's going on behind the paywall. We would love to see you there. It's the best way to support what we do. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all later.